Coming up on November 7th, there will be a special election in Goodyear. The ballot will include 3 questions related to city bonds. Bonds are used to fund large projects. The bonds proposed on the ballot would be used to pay for key traffic improvements, public safety, and parks projects. Ready to learn more about the election? Visit goodyearaz.gov/bond election for more details, the latest information, and important election dates. Welcome to the Goodyear City Council meeting. We're excited to have you be a part of this important public process. Tonight, you will have the opportunity to address City Council on both non-agenda and agenda items. The agendas and speaker request cards are located in the back of the council chambers. You must fill out a speaker request card in order to address the City Council. Please drop your completed card in the tray next to the blank speaker cards. If the meeting has already begun, please hand it to the officer. Use the wish to speak option on the card. This allows you to still voice your opinion on an item on the record without having to speak. In accordance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, please contact a staff member if you need any assistance. Public comment on a non-agenda item will take place during the citizen comment portion of the evening. These are items that don't appear on tonight's formal agenda. The city clerk will call your name when it's time for you to speak. At that time, please approach the podium and tell us your name for the record. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes. The timer is on the screens visible from the podium. Note that you may also choose not to speak if other speakers before you have said what you wanted to say. Shouting, cheering, and loud noises will be tolerated. Violators may be removed for disrupting the meeting. Goodyear City Council meetings stream live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and online at goodyear.gov. Follow the city's social media page so you don't miss all that's happening in Goodyear. Thank you for coming to this meeting and being an active part of your city. And remember, it's a great time to be in Goodyear.
I'd like to call the regular meeting for 2023. Mark everybody present. All here? All right. Please join Councilmember Loretano in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, as we begin this meeting today, please give us wisdom and guidance to make good decisions for our community, for our future, and for all of our residents. Make sure that we listen with open hearts and minds, and that we understand that what we do is for the greater good for all. Please, Lord, watch those that serve abroad and protect our nation and its security. And Lord, please help those and guide those that protect us at home as well, in the military, in the fire, and in the police. Please help us and guide us. In your name we pray, amen. Amen.
Thank you, Councilmember Loretano. Now is the time for citizens who would like to address the City Council on any non-agenda items within the jurisdiction of Goodyear City Council. Any cards?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Oh.
Someone raised their hand, Mayor.
What's that?
Mayor,
Someone raised their hand.
I haven't received the card yet for the gentleman who wishes to speak, but they're bringing them up.
Say that again.
There's a card coming.
Card coming.
Yeah, so hang on.
Mayor, the items aren't marked on the card. Wanted to speak on an item that was not on the agenda that filled out a card? Okay, there, you have one gentleman.
Thank you. I did fill out a card.
Before you get started, the council will listen to comments and may take one of any action. Respond to criticism, request the staff investigate and report on the matter. Request the matter be scheduled on future agenda items. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. The red light will let you know when it's 20 seconds. If before you speak, would you just give your name and say if you're a Goodyear resident?
Yes, Brian McCarty. I'm a Goodyear resident.
Okay, that's it. That's all you need.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you again. I live in Palm Valley. I'm a retired military pilot, a licensed private pilot and commercial pilot with over 11,000 hours of total flight time. I'm also a licensed Arizona realtor. My neighbor and I appeared before you on the 28th of August to address the rapidly growing noise problem over our houses stemming from the increased traffic from the Goodyear Airport. I regretfully report that despite a conference call with the airport and tower personnel and a brief conversation with Deputy City Manager Fair post-council meeting, no changes have occurred. In fact, the problem has gotten worse. As of last council meeting, Goodyear Airport boasts it is the busiest single runway airport in the United States with over 19,700 takeoffs and landings, just ahead of San Diego International Airport. So let that sink in. Our airport a few miles away is busier than a major California city with over 1.3 million people. The largest school, United Aviate, which we support wholeheartedly, is still growing. We are asking the City of Goodyear to engage directly with the City of Phoenix and the FAA to designate Palm Valley as an official noise-sensitive residential neighborhood and establish mandatory noise abatement procedures, pilot awareness training, a curfew, and flight path enforcement for the Goodyear Airport. Recently, a Cirrus airplane operated by the United Aviate Academy flew directly over my property at 365 feet above the ground, shaking my house. Again, this happens from 6 a.m. to past midnight, 7 days a week, including holidays, including this morning at about 1 in the morning. As you know, while the airport was under construction this month, the airplanes moved to the North Valley, and we experienced peace we haven't had in over a year. Unfortunately, they're back in the air with no regard for the peace of Goodyear residents. It's unfortunate that the airport and flight school were allowed to expand with no consideration to the residents below. The highway was built over our house, and the debilitating noise from the air traffic bombards us 19 hours a day. The flight schools were given carte blanche to do whatever they want. And how are we supposed to promote Goodyear as a quiet, safe, and enjoyable place to live with noisy aircraft buzzing our neighborhood past midnight? One of my alma maters, Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, has extensive noise abatement lessons and procedures in Florida covering 4 of their airports. In the Valley, Sky Harbor, Scottsdale, Falcon Field all have noise mitigation standards, very high noise mitigation standards, I might add, and have extensive efforts for public outreach, noise awareness, and training. The City of Goodyear can do this too, and it starts with you in this room. I respectfully ask that this council help protect our right to peaceful enjoyment of our property values, and our safety by assisting us with the necessary resources and create an agenda item to discuss at the next meeting to help solve this noise problem. Thank you for your time and attention.
Before you go, I just want to let you know I met with the city manager this morning. All right, you tell me if I'm off base here anywhere.
Okay.
Attorney, they'll get a work session scheduled with the manager of the airport to see how we can address this issue. And I guess we've got your information and your partner's information on the suggestions that we may want to incorporate within that work session when that gets up there. So I met with her this morning to talk specifically about that, okay?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
You're welcome. Yes, go ahead. He'll tell us if we're off base here.
Yeah, I just want to know, when we do that, can we get what the flight pattern is? Because we want to make sure we don't move traffic from one area to the other, what their pattern is for landings and everything.
He's on it. Well, thank you. Because we don't want to move him from one to another. Thank you. Anything else? Anything else, Clerk? City
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Will City Clerk please read consent agenda items 1 through 9 by title only?
Approval of minutes for the September 8th, 2023 special meeting and September 11th, 2023 regular meeting. Map of dedication for Compass Data Yuma Resolution number 2023-2337 declaring a public record that certain documents filed with the city clerk entitled amending Chapter 12 Sewers of this Goodyear City Code. Adopt ordinance number 2023-1583, amending Chapter 12 sewers of the Goodyear City Code to amend and replace Chapter 12 in its entirety, providing for corrections, severability, penalties, and an effective date. Item 4, adopt resolution number 2023-2338, declaring a public record that certain documents filed with the city clerk entitled amending Chapter 12A sewer pretreatment of the Goodyear City Code. Adopt ordinance number 2023-1584, amending Chapter 12A sewer pretreatment of the Goodyear City Code to amend and replace in its entirety, providing for corrections, severability, penalties, and an effective date. Number 5, adopt resolution number 2023-2335, declaring as public record that certain documents filed with the city clerk and titled amending Article 14-11, backflow control and cross-connection program of the Goodyear City Code. Adopt ordinance number 2023-1582, amending Article 14-11, backflow control and cross-connection program of the Goodyear City Code, providing for correction, severability, penalties, and an effective date. Item 6, authorization of expenditure of construction and furniture, fixtures, and equipment funds for approved CIP project number 60105, Goodyear Municipal Complex tenant improvements. Item 7, Water Infrastructure and Finance Authority grant application to deploy smart home water devices for 500 water customers. Item 8, adopt resolution number 2023-2351, ratifying the conditional approval authorizing the submission of an application for fiscal year 23-24 Rural and Tribal Assistant Pilot Program funds to the United States Department of Transportation, authorizing the city manager to execute all documents related to said application, and authorizing the city manager to execute a grant agreement if grant funds are awarded, and authorizing the city manager to approve the required budget transfer if grant funds are awarded. And item 9, adopt resolution number 2023-2354, approving the form of a development agreement for Airport Gateway South, conditionally authorizing its execution, providing direction and authorization, providing for the termination of the approvals and authorizations provided in the resolution, and providing an effective date.
That was a mouthful. All right, with that being said, does anyone want to pull one off the agenda? What number?
Mayor, I'd like to get a presentation on item 6, please.
So you want to pull it off?
Pull it off, yeah.
Okay. Yes. 6.
Oh, I just wanted to make a comment on, a brief comment on items 3 through 5.
All right, we'll go ahead and do the comments on 3 through 5, if you would.
Okay.
And then we'll go ahead and do a presentation on 6, and then we can move forward with the others, correct?
Okay. I publicly recognize Barbara Chappelle, the Water Services Director, and her department for their work to improve processes, achieve greater efficiency, and improve the overall customer experience by delving into these matters and bringing them forth. And congratulations for doing that, and would love to see that, more of that continue to happen.
Good. Okay, I guess a presentation for 6. Who is that? Steve? Go ahead if you would just introduce yourself to the public, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Steve Cinto, City Engineer. I also have Alan Smoko, our Senior Project Manager for the Goodyear Municipal Complex tenant improvements here today. We're here tonight with a request to authorize an expenditure of funds up to $3.69 million for tenant and site improvements for Building D. As part of the request, I'm also going to update you on the overall project status and where this component fits into the overall project. As a reminder, the overall project is to remodel GMC buildings B, C, D, E, and associated site improvements. As you can see by the chart and graphic on this slide, the project is separated into 3 phases. Currently, we're in phase 1 of construction, with phases 2 and 3 to come in the near future. Phase 1 includes buildings C, D, and the overall site improvements. Phase 2 is the courts building, and phase 3 is the fire admin building. So moving to project status, currently phase 1, building C is completed. That's our wellness center that opened or moved in July. Building D is ready for construction, and that will house staff from DSD, engineering, and IT. That's what we're here to ask for authority tonight, in addition to the site improvements. Those are to come in the near future, looking at December. And just to dig a little deeper into that, the site improvements include seal and striping for the parking lot, and also a shade structure for the car seat check in the admin building, fire admin building. Moving on to phase 2, the courts building, we're anticipating to start in January. And phase 3, the fire admin building, it's currently under design, and we're currently planning construction in fiscal year 25. Finally, the budget breakdown. So total, we're looking at about $8.725 million. Phase 1, we're currently in, that's totaling out to about $4.6 million. That includes design for all phases. So that was front-loaded. Construction of Building C, that's already been completed. And then construction of D improvements, again, what I'm here asking for tonight. Looking to the near future, Phase 2, Building B, or the court's construction, is about $1.5 million. And Phase 3, the admin building, is estimated to be about $2.65 million, or $2.625 million, excuse me. It's important to note that of that number, we have about $1 million remaining after the first 2 phases in construction, and we're planning on coming forward with the next fiscal year budget process to request additional $1.58 million to do the fire admin building. That concludes my project update. Again, we're here tonight to request to authorize an expenditure of funds up to $3.69 million for tenant and site improvements for Building D, which is a portion of the overall GMC TI project. And now I'm available for any questions.
Go ahead, Councilmember Stipp.
Thank you, Mayor. Apparently I have to sit back. Steve, thanks for the presentation. It was very unclear to me that this project was broken into the smaller chunks that it was. Seeing an expenditure kind of on the consent agenda for $3.7 million without a lot of detail behind it was caused question for me, which was not available in the staff report. So I appreciate the presentation tonight. This is a pretty chunky, very large capital improvement program project. It seems as though this should probably have come to us in smaller pieces. Is that under consideration for future similar projects?
Mayor, Councilmember Stipp, absolutely. I think this lessons learned for staff is that in the future, when we're approaching a complex TI of a complex, that we would probably break it into smaller components and individually program those out.
Okay, great. Again, thanks for the presentation. It answered all of my questions.
Okay, is everybody okay? All right, with that, will the council please enter a motion and a second to approve consent items 1 through 5, 7, 8, 9. I see a motion and a second. Any further? Go ahead and vote. Passes 7-0. Thank you. Now can I get a motion and a second to approve agenda item 6, authorize the expenditure of funds for Goodyear Municipal Complex tenant improvements? Got a motion and a second up on the board. Any more discussion? Seeing none, go ahead and open voting. Passes 7-0. Thank you. All right, with that, we have 5 public hearings on the agenda tonight. The first public hearing item is to consider a rezoning west of southwest corner of Estrella and Van Buren. Open public hearing. Go ahead and please introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mayor, Council Members, Steve Correcchia, Planning Manager. I do have a presentation before you tonight for a rezoning. And where we are located, Van Buren Street, Estrella Parkway, 11 acres right here at the corner. Surrounding this property, we have commercial to the north, Safeway Center there at Canyon Trails. Wrapping around Van Buren, Estrella Parkway, more commercial uses here to the east, as well as Hudson Commons. Commercial here, we have the Culvers and the Sombreros that were developed here. As we wrap around to the south in Hudson Way, we have existing single-family rentals here. And then as we go to the west, we have existing single-family development within Hudson Commons. And I should note that this aerial does not show that this part of Hudson Commons has been developed. So we do have houses all along this area in here, existing homes. And I also should note that here Hudson Commons and Estrella Parkway is to be signalized sometime probably next summer. And so for this property, for this area, it's business and commerce in the general plan. And that is for types of businesses, retail, services, but it also allows high-density residential within the business and commerce. This property, this 11 acres, part of the 102 acres that was Hudson Commons. Right now is zoned commercial, so you would see things like neighborhood commercial, grocery stores, restaurants. Building height in the C2 in this area is 56 feet, so that's the maximum building height currently. And we did have some existing commercial already built and some multifamily already in this area. And so the request tonight is to take the subject property from that commercial designation to the PAD with an underlying MF24, so a multifamily designation. What the applicant would like to do would be to develop 3-story buildings at a height of 40 feet and 1 4-story building at a height of 50 feet. About 284 residential units are proposed at about 25 dwelling units per acre. And here we can see the breakdown, mostly 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. We'll have a landscape buffer, 12 feet along the western property, as well as a clubhouse amenity and a 2-story rooftop deck and dog park. And so this is a site plan that shows what the applicant would like to develop on the site. So here we have north up here in Van Buren Street, Estrella Parkway. Looking at access, we will have access points, several access points for this property. A couple from Van Buren, several from Estrella Parkway. Again, that proposed signalized intersection here with Hudson Way, as well as one here and here that will serve this property. Properties developed north to south. We have the 4-story building up here, and then we transition to 3-story here and here. Because it's a 4-story building, minimum building setback is 150 feet. So from Hudson Commons, single-family residential, there'll be at least 150 feet. For the other 2 complexes here, minimum at least 100 feet here as well as here. And as we can see how they've designed the buildings, the amenities here will be in this view here. You'll have the clubhouse, the pool and such. Here's the dog park right here. And so with this request, there were a few deviations. One of those was for that 4-story building up to 50 feet in height. And what the applicant will do is they'll put that larger height adjacent to Van Buren. So it'll be adjacent to the street, not facing the residential. And again, we'll be looking at least 150-foot setback for that building. 284 units, that's a density of 25. That's 1 over the 24 per acre. What the applicant did in return was provide additional open space amenities for the residents' use. Also, the 12-foot landscape buffer. It was a 20-foot buffer originally in the Hudson Commons PAD. However, that was anticipating commercial uses, back-of-house type truck loading, storage, things like that. The applicant is reducing it to 12, but they are placing trees 30 feet on center within this area. And here we go, shows a picture just as the aerial did not show the homes. This picture shows homes from looking south, going north, so you can see a mix of single and 2-story homes within this area. And we'll keep traveling north again. You can see that pattern repeats itself, a mix of single and 2-story homes within this area. Last inspection when I was out there, looks like the developer was finishing construction on a lot of these homes, so people have moved in, are moving in as we speak. Looking at the proposal for the elevations, this is what you will see fronting Estrella Parkway. Again, the taller building here facing the arterials, and this is the Van Buren frontage here. So this is just the 4-story building. And just this exhibit is a perspective. Again, you're kind of looking down the street frontages, again, seeing that 4-story height. What this image does show is per stipulations that's required multiple building materials, types of accents over windows on the roof. So this image just kind of shows those elements that they will need to incorporate. Whether it's this developer or another developer, be required to incorporate this type of architectural features. And this is the clubhouse proposal. Again, just showing the colors, materials that are proposed with this development. And so we did have a neighborhood meeting in July. 20 people attended. Most were not in favor of this proposal. We did do all of the notice as required for this hearing. To date, staff has received, as of the date of this presentation, 31 emails with 30 against. At the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing on the 13th, there were 6 homeowners who did speak. These were some of the opposition points to the proposal. Staff also did receive 10 cards stating opposition to the rezoning at the hearing. So as staff looks at rezoning, we do have to do an evaluation. One of those things is we look at the general plan, and we do find that the proposal for multifamily is consistent with the business and commerce, that land use does allow multifamily within it if the compatibility has been addressed. So moving to the next one, as stipulated, we do find that it can be compatible. The building is located adjacent to the arterials, away from the residential. That building steps down to 3 stories as you get closer to the residential. The applicant is proposing additional open space within the development. They're planting buffer trees within that buffer along the west side, 30 feet on center, as well as taking extra steps to ensure the lighting does not trespass over into the western side, into the single-family homes. So the commission did discuss this rezoning, did evaluate it during their hearing. They did not find that it met the criteria, so the motion coming, or the recommendation coming out of the Planning Commission is for denial. So before the council tonight, we do have a split recommendation. Staff does recommend approval subject to the steps in the draft ordinance. However, the Planning Commission does recommend denial. If the council does choose to approve this request, we would request that you approve it subject to the stipulations within the draft ordinance. With that, Mayor, council member, concludes the presentation. Available for questions. The applicant's also here, and they have a presentation as well.
Okay. The applicant like to speak now?
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Brennan Ray, 1850 North Central, here on behalf of the applicant, Leon Capital. Leon Capital Group has had considerable experience building high-quality multifamily communities across the nation, including having received a number of industry awards for their design and for the quality of their communities. We have been working a long time on staff because the challenge that was laid at us at the very outset was to provide a development that meets the city's design, not only meets the city's design guidelines, but exceeds them. And there were a number of inputs that we have received along the way to ensure that this development is compatible with the adjacent and surrounding area. We started this process approximately 18 months ago with a pre-application, which, as you may know, is a precursor to a rezoning application. We filed that rezoning application 16 months ago in May of 22 and have been working diligently with staff based on input that they've received. And we've tried to be responsive to the input that's been received, not only from staff, from other stakeholders and interested parties, but from the neighbors as well. I can go into a lot of details. Steve did a great job in his presentation and staff in their report outlining this development. And so we would agree wholeheartedly with planning staff's recommendation and would request your approval. If I may, I don't know how to make my magic presentation come up.
We can Ah, okay. Oops.
You guys are awesome. Thank you. So again, this is where we're trying to get to. We know that it is a city council priority to raise the standard when it comes to design guidelines. I'm aware of at least a couple of council meetings where you all have talked about the minimum standards are okay, staff, we want you to increase it. And we believe that this development, as stipulated, reflects that desire of the council to increase the quality of it through the use of colors, through the use of materials, through the use of architectural articulation, building movement, and things like that. And so we think that this meets the council's desire of a quality development. Steve walked through the site plan. I won't go into details other than to point out a couple of things. That this is a gated community. Unlike a commercial development that would be ungated, we are gated. We have tried to be sensitive to the neighbors. As staff indicated, we've shoved everything far away from them. One thing that staff didn't quite mention was following the neighborhood meeting, there was a concern about that 4-story building. And as you can see on the slide before you with the yellow circle, that 4-story building was reduced to 3 stories, which resulted in a loss of 11 units. And so what we've done is to try to minimize the impact on the adjacent neighborhood by shoving everything further to the east, by shrinking the height of that building as we go down. Again, you can see that. I know that there was a question about the general plan conformance. I won't belabor it other than to say staff did their own analysis of it and determined that we met the general plan. We went and did our own homework as well, and you can see a couple of 6 points that we found as well to show that this development does conform with the general plan. So there's 3 things that I just want to talk about very briefly. One is commercial viability. The second thing will be to talk about why there's so many apartments. There's been a lot of talk in the papers. The residents, I'm sure tonight will say we've got too many apartments. We've got too many apartments, and I'd like to address that. And then the third issue that I want to talk about deals with traffic, which is probably the number one concern. As we were at the neighborhood meeting, as we heard the comments at the Planning Commission, and as we read the emails that have been submitted to you, traffic was the number one. So this was what it was zoned for. Again, I won't belabor it. You can see that at one point, this 11 acres was part of a 19-acre commercial development. It was planned for a hotel and some inline shops. The owner at the time was a commercial developer. It's his business. I was told by some friends of mine who are in the commercial development industry that if a commercial developer wanted to locate on this site, a multifamily developer doesn't have deep enough pockets to compete with a commercial developer. And so now Leon Capital is in it. So when we look at it from a commercial standpoint, it's not just the 11 acres that we're talking about. We have to look at the 19 acres to determine whether or not it's viable commercially. As you know, for a 19-acre site to be viable, you need some anchors to make it work. Grocery stores, discount department stores, home improvement stores. And so when we start to look at some of the challenges and look at it through a retailer's perspective, you start to see that within a 2-mile radius, it's kind of a who's who of commercial developers. What you see on there obviously is Walmart, Target, Fry's, Safeway, some of the big boys that you would need to anchor and to make a 19-acre development be viable, successful. I won't go through this slide in detail. You're all aware of the challenges that e-commerce brings with it. But one of the positive outcomes of e-commerce is found in the South Dakota versus Wayfair U.S. Supreme Court decision in 2018, which then authorized states to collect sales tax from internet sales. That is something that, as I've asked professionals in the business to try to quantify what that means for the state of Arizona, I get a range of numbers between $5,000 per household all the way up to $15,000 per household in sales tax. So who knows? That is to be determined, but nevertheless, there is a benefit that additional residents do bring in that regard. So the next question as to why apartments. This council is well aware of the housing shortage that is across Maricopa County. I believe you all were briefed by Elliot Pollock in April of last year as to the current state of the housing in it. Your own staff provides you updates regularly on the housing stock and supply and inventory and where things are in the process. And certainly, you all recognized it as a resolution for Home Arizona back in December of last year. And so we know that there's that. The other thing that as I've looked, and staff will correct me where I'm wrong on this, but I think Goodyear is number 11 on a list of the fastest growing cities. You guys have done a great job. Your economic development team has done a great job. I know that within the industrial space alone, there has been a substantial increase, going from 7.8 million in 2015 to 47.7 million today, with another 26 million square feet of industrial that's under construction. Congratulations, you guys have done a great job bringing jobs to the area, which needs housing. So this particular slide was taken from a study that Harvard did, the Joint Center for Housing Studies at Harvard University. And it tells an interesting tale when you look at one of the reasons why there have been so many apartments. And if you look, what I've outlined in black is that there has been a substantial increase in people making good amounts of money, a 48% increase over the past decade, those making 1,000 and greater. People that otherwise could choose to live in a single family home, but because of their lifestyle choice and what they want, they choose to live in a rental community, such as the one that we are proposing tonight for you. And that desire, these higher income earners that go into these communities, is reflected in the design of it. If you have not seen a multifamily complex within the past 2 years, I would encourage you to go out and see one, because they are resorts. The level of finish, the level of detail, the level of quality in it, the amenities, all point it to being a resort, which is reflective and indicative of the data that Harvard has found out. So the last question that I wanted to answer to you was traffic. We hear that a lot of times, you hear it a lot of times when we're talking about development, and we can all agree that a vacant site generates no traffic. But in this instance, with the commercial zoning, and we heard, and I'm sure you heard tonight, a number of residents that will say they actually prefer the commercial. But when we look at it from a traffic generation standpoint, you can see it on there. The one figure that I will point to really is the PM peak, that time between 3 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon, where people are sometimes coming home from school, coming home from work, and a lot of them sometimes like to go shopping as they come home. And you see that in this area, on Estrella and Van Buren, that there is a 725% increase in traffic were this site to develop with commercial. And so that's no small, talking 1%, 2%, 725% increase in the PM. Overall, 600% increase in a 24-hour period. Last thing relative to commercial and what we look at, I hit too many buttons fast, sorry. We talk about impact of commercial, and we wanted to show you this as well, because correspondingly with traffic, the other concern that you'll hear is privacy. Two of the four horsemen, as I refer to them as. And in this case, you can see clearly that if a commercial development were to land on this 11 acres, it's not gated. It is set significantly closer to the residence, a 50-foot setback, and that is per code. That presumes a 20-foot setback and a 30-foot high building. When we look at it, and that's a mistake on my part, ignore the 190, I'll own that mistake. That should be 150 or 100. But you can see visually the impact that a commercial building would have on the residential, such a building pressed up. You all know behind any commercial building, you will have dumpsters, you will have compactors, you'll have grease traps, you'll have delivery docks, you'll have a number of things that are far more intrusive than a gated, high-quality residential community that is shoved as far to the east as we can get it. And so with that, Mayor, members of the council, we would request your approval in accordance with staff's recommendation. We've tried to be responsive. We believe we're setting a new standard when it comes to design and quality that is reflective of the council's desire. With that, Mayor, I'm happy to answer any questions, and if it is appropriate, would like some opportunity to rebuttal, again, if appropriate.
Okay, let's give the others a chance to speak, and then we'll see what kind of questions you get here from the dais. Okay?
Thank you, Mayor.
I assume we have some speaker cards?
Yes, Mayor, we do. We have several that have not identified the item that they wish to speak on. May I ask which item prior to starting?
Well, why don't you call out a name and see if that's on this item, and if
Okay.
so, they'll come on up.
Kavina Devereaux?
Is this the correct item? Yes. Come on up. Before you start, I don't know if you heard before, you'll have 3 minutes, it'll let you know when it's also 22nd. From you and whether you're a Goodyear resident.
Okay. Kavina Devereaux. Yes, I am a Goodyear resident. And I was not expecting to go first, so I'll try to keep it quick. I am a new resident of Goodyear. I have been there for 3 weeks now. I have worked my way up to being a homeowner, and I am directly impacted by the proposal for the residential apartment complex. My home is directly on that wall, so my backyard would face directly the apartments and be right near the parking lot. I drove down the Goodyear area from McDowell, Australia to Van Buren and counted the number of apartments that have been built. Apartments are luxury homes. In a 2-mile radius, there are 7 apartment or luxury homes already built. I understand Goodyear is growing, and that's why I selected Goodyear to move, but do we have to have it in a small area? So, because I have worked hard to build the American dream for myself and my to buy. I think it would be a disservice if an apartment complex that is 3 stories is directly facing my backyard, where I'm blocked by a metal building and possibly a parking lot. When you continue to build a number of apartments or smart homes in a certain area, it also has effects, not only on the impact of the homeowners, but on the community as well. I know we are growing as a city, which is why I selected Goodyear, but I oppose this request because the impact and the growth should not outweigh the homeowners that have worked very hard to have home ownership, and I'm one of those. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Give me another name, we'll see if it's for this one.
Samir Jagtap?
Not this one? Okay.
Domino Prosky?
For this one? Come on up. Again, if you would, you saw the previous three minutes, and state your name and whether you're a Goodyear resident, and I'll let you know when you get closer to the end, okay?
Yes, sir.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you. My name is Domino Prasky. Yes, I am a resident here in Goodyear. I chose Goodyear with my family before I knew I was having a family, particularly because we knew it was growing, developing, it's beautiful. I work for Uber as an enterprise architect. It is my job to make sure that tens of thousands of employees know what is happening within the company, within our applications and enterprises. Communications is my job. I was not provided any flyer, information, nothing on this development. However, I just happened to be walking my son in our neighborhood because I can do that in our neighborhood. Ran into one of our neighbors who happened to let me know, did you see and hear what is happening? Had that interaction not happened, I would have not known. I was provided nothing. So given that information, I did what I am good at. I sent it out myself. And lo and behold, I found that hundreds of other neighbors, community residents within Hudson Commons, also did not hear or know about what was happening. Myself and several other neighbors this weekend copied, printed, to door, and asked if our neighbors knew what was happening. I also sent out a message on our Nextdoor app to help in our community It's fantastic in what it does in keeping us all in line with each other and letting us know things of this nature. My post, since originally setting it, has over 18,800 views, over 220 comments, 63 reactions, none of which of those reactions are a thumbs down. But I was really passionate because although I do not sit aligned on that wall, I am inner towards the community. Too small to fit over what we estimated 850 residents would be put into that place, into that section. It is small. We are asking that you guys please review what has been provided in the emails. We asked our community members to also let you guys know the traffic, the space. If you look real quick at our Goodyear logo, we are provided a very beautiful skyline. It is diverse, it goes up and down, you can see the mountains. It would be awful to know that in the future, it would just be a straight line in front of those mountains with just apartment complexes. So think about that, not just as we think about this complex, but others. That is a diverse skyline. We are a diverse city, and it needs to represent that. Thank you.
You're welcome. What else you got?
Yusira Millenbaugh.
One. Again, your name, whether you're a Goodyear resident, time will start 3 minutes to tell you when it starts to get down there.
Absolutely. My name is Yusra Millenbaugh, and I've been a resident of Goodyear since 2008. Mayor Pizzolo, Base Mayor Cano, members of the City Council. Recently, my family and I sold our house in a more residential area of Goodyear and moved to the Hudson Commons development. When we were searching for our new home, one of the things that attracted us to that area was the promise of new things to come and its proximity to all the great amenities that Goodyear currently has. We're right next to the recreation center. There are some businesses right on Estrella that my kids love going and stopping at Dutch Bros. And with teenage boys, we were very excited to see that the area behind it, at the time when we purchased the land, was zoned for commercial. We saw that our teenage boys would have places to go and things to do right within walking distance. And that's why we gave up homes in different parts of Goodyear that had bigger lots, bigger bedrooms, 3-car garages, and we chose Hudson Commons because we wanted a safe community in that walkable area. And that's what Goodyear, honestly, we've been here since 2008, that's what Goodyear has been promising us all along. And anytime people asked us, why are you building your new house in Goodyear? There's nothing there but apartment complexes and warehouses. We tell them over and over again, we love it here. They're going to do good things. They're going to bring us businesses. And we see Mayor Pizzolo is always talking about it. And so when we moved in, and then 2 weeks later, we're in that 500-foot area where you get a notice that they're building. 2 weeks later, we got a notice that they were building that 4-story apartment complex with more than, at that time it was 295 units into that area. And it was really upsetting to us because this is what everybody says they don't want more of, warehouses and apartment complexes. To elaborate, this will be the 5th apartment complex that just I count within the mile and a half of Hudson Commons. I understand that the developer wants to make money, and yet as a city council, we ask us to look out for you. That's why we elect you. I was able to attend that informational meeting, and I appreciate the attempts to give the residents in that luxury community more green space. That's nice. But the important fact is that they're still asking for even above what the area is zoned for as far as capacity. And it really can't support that. There's no safe left turn onto Van Buren or Estrella from the site. They're going to put a light in at Hudson Commons that diverts everything into our neighborhood, which, my kid already is dodging traffic on Harrison and 158th. It really just doesn't live up to the standard that the City Council has been promising us in Goodyear for a long time. We want commercial development. It's a great site for it, and we just really hope that the council will hear what Goodyear has been saying for many, many years. And as you look at raising taxes and asking us to invest again in the city, we would really like to see an investment in us through some of those promises being realized. I'm trying to see, I'm low on time. I did say I supported the measure. That's because the city council or the city planner told me that the recommendation from the planning commission was to deny this request. And so I would hope you would support that planning commission and deny this request, as it doesn't fit within the vision for Goodyear from your citizens. Thank you so much.
Next.
Carol Whitaker.
Who? Oh, okay. Name and Goodyear resident, and you've got 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Awesome. I'm Carol Whitaker, and yes, I'm a Goodyear resident. Let me just pull up my notes here. Sorry.
Can you speak up so we can hear you, please?
Yes, Carol Whitaker, Goodyear resident. Hello, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and city officials. My name is Carol Whitaker. I'm a Goodyear resident for 10 years, and I am against the building of the apartment complex that is to go up near Estrella Parkway in Van Buren. Sorry if my voice is shaky. This complex would bring unwanted noise, traffic, and lack of privacy to the neighboring community. I'm actually on that borderline there of the supposed apartment complexes to go up. So it would directly affect me and my family. I don't believe the city of Goodyear needs another apartment complex, as there are already many apartment complexes already established, and there's still new complexes going up. I'm not sure why the developer is wanting to build an apartment complex in such a small area when there's plenty of undeveloped land in Goodyear where they could place this monstrosity of a complex at. With that being said, another apartment complex is not wanted by many community members, and the proof is seen in Goodyear's social media posts, where many of the residents have expressed that we as a community do not want or need another apartment complex. I respectfully ask all of our city officials to listen to the community you represent, and please deny their request for this complex from being built. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Eugene Habich.
Name and Goodyear residence and your 3 minutes, okay?
Good evening, council. Gene Habich of Litchfield Park, which borders your beautiful city. A friend of mine lives in the Hudson Commons area, and he asked me to come and speak. My comments is regarding the parking in this project. There's 284 units. There is a total of 490 parking spaces. Well, that is not going to cover if you have 568 cars, possibly with two occupants per unit. And each person, 99% of the time will have a car. So they'll need 568 parking spaces. So there's 78 parking spaces short. Where will these 78 cars park when everybody's home and if they're working? The staff says they're short 29 spaces just by the number of cars per space. There's 234 one-bedrooms. It'll take 1.5 spaces for a one-bedroom. But if there's two people in a one-bedroom unit, there's going to be cars. Take that into consideration. 2 bedrooms, 236 spaces. 3 bedrooms, they only have 20 spaces. So my feeling is the project is short parking. There's not a lot of parking in this area in the first place. What they're going to wind up happening, they're going to come out, they're not going to find a parking space because they didn't even take into consideration visitors' parking spaces. But with that said, I support what your planning commission, and I'm very familiar because I was dealing with them in California. And generally, 90% of the time, your planning commission, if they deny it, there's a reason for denial. So I'll support the planning commission on this project. Thank you.
Next.
Jonathan Schunig.
Again, sir, 3 minutes, your name and whether you're a Goodyear resident.
Yes, sir. My name is Jonathan Schurig. I'm a resident of Goodyear. I do live in Hudson Commons. Thank you for the time tonight to speak with all of you. Within the general plan update that was given at the Planning and Zoning Committee, our commission, there was talk about having a buffer between single family and multifamily. And this is something that was coming straight from the residents via survey according to the general plan update. There's no buffer in this case. Residents are looking for more entertainment. A gated community doesn't provide entertainment. It provides privacy and seclusion for that community, but it does not provide anything for the community as a whole. Restaurants certainly would. Gives people an opportunity to sit down and socialize. Now there's talk about you need an anchor for this area. There's a Safeway across the street. How many times have you gone somewhere and said, oh, this is right across the street, I'm just gonna run over there real quick. You go to Safeway, you go here. They are such close proximity, it still qualifies as an anchor. The residents want less industrial. Again, survey from General Plan Committee. Why not parks? If we can't fit something that is being wedged in there inappropriately, as stated by the Planning and Zoning Commission, why not have something that helps beautify and gentrify the neighborhood? Parks help the community as a whole. Just because something can be done doesn't mean that it should be done. Just because I can fit in a space doesn't mean I should go in that space, right? So we talked about speed of growth for the city. Speed of growth is great. I'm all for evolution and moving forward. But if we go too fast and we're not ready for it, do we stumble and trip? I believe this is a stumble and trip scenario. I'm requesting a full denial. Part of that is privacy. They're going to tell you they've got privacy covered. Well, they've got privacy covered for their complex, but not for us. Not for those of us that border that wall. My children playing in the background will be viewed from people in their apartments, because where do you go in an apartment when you want to step outside for a second? Your balcony, overlooking somebody else. As far as one comment that was made, and I made this at the Planning and Zoning Committee, comment that was made by the developer. He lives in a community where he's got multifamily overlooking his property, and he flat out said he didn't like it. But he's asking for us to accept it. We're not. You've seen plenty of folks that said no. Even in their presentation, not one single person other than those associated with the development want this. Thank you for your time.
Next.
Andre Thimigan.
Good evening. Timian, and I am a resident of Goodyear and also a resident of Hudson Commons. And I was told the projector would be useful as well for presenting.
That right there?
Yes.
Can somebody help him? Steve, do you know how that works?
That's fine. I'll continue. I have been a resident of Goodyear practically all my life. Have lived here when it's been pretty much farmland and seen all the urbanization come around. I love urbanization, but I also love the skyline as well. I understand the need for urbanization, but also at a well-planned and balanced level. So also another thing is I am an active community member. My whole family, my brothers are all Eagle Scouts, and then I have gone on to specialize in tech and cybersecurity. So with this, what I've been wanting to go ahead and bring up is 3 points: contradiction, clarity, and hypocrisy. Contradiction. They said that this commercial place wouldn't be viable if we put it there because we need an anchor, but like we said, we already have Safeway there. But if you looked at one of the presentation charts, they said that traffic would be increased by 700%. Well, I think that means that we're getting traffic to those businesses. So I'm confused on what that means. Is it viable or is it not? The next horrible that argument many times. We need affordable housing. But I've heard through all the meetings I've been at for this, they said it's going to be luxury or premium apartments. So that means it's not going to be affordable. So once again, there's too many contradictions. Which one are they picking at? Clarity. They said, if we look here at the chart, because I couldn't put in a PowerPoint, this was theirs originally, some focus. But the red dots are all of the apartments and multifamily ones within that 2-mile radius of their PowerPoint. But if you notice, each one of the big box stores that they say is going to go ahead and then not make the business viable, each one's different. Ace Hardware, Dignity Health, Walgreens, they're small complexes, each provide a diversity versus what these complexes, apartments do not. The other thing is trying to scare people is saying, well, if we have commercial 50-foot high or higher, you know what? When have we ever stepped into a 2-story commercial building here in Goodyear? Everything is 1 story. Anything above 50 feet is just a signage. I'm perfectly fine with that. And actually, if anything, I'd rather have a U-Haul back there because I'm not scared about the building. I'm scared about the residents in the high dense area because of the probability of negative things happening when you have so many people there. The other one is the hypocrisy. They are a holding company out of Texas. What business do they have here to determine what our residents and what we want? Why are they speaking upon us and they're not even here? The residents and the planning committee have spoken. And for us just to be another little check off on their little holding portfolio, we're not here to go ahead and make them money. We're here to help the community. And also, I haven't found any points for them saying what utility brings to us because they don't live here. They're not members of the community. We are. So I love Goodyear. I love everything you guys have done. Everything is run very well with it. So please don't let your community down, but please especially don't let your voters down. Thank you.
Next.
Benjamin Zukowski.
Again, you've heard all the spiel before. Name, Goodyear residents, 3 minutes. There you go.
All right. Greetings and salutations, exalted ones. My name is Benjamin Zukowski. I've been a resident of Goodyear for 10 years, and I am opposed to the multifamily housing as presented tonight by LCG and Mr. Correa over here. I live off of Centera, off of Estrella, and I've seen the development of growth. I see that there's a multitude of multifamily housing located all up and down Estrella. I see the apartment complexes down at the ballpark. I see the apartment complexes at the I-10 in Estrella. I see the apartment complexes at Roosevelt in Estrella. I see the apartment complexes at the district, which is on Pebble Creek and Virginia. The point I'm making here is that there's an overpopulation of multifamily density within an exceptionally small area. I can't see the utility or the viability that this apartment complex would bring to the neighborhood around Van Buren or Centera. I can't see that and adding additional 900 residents in such a small area is going to be is going to bring a significant economic viability to the existing businesses there, aside from more headache to maybe the other residents around. With the passage of SB 1102, I can't see that would make much of a economic incentivization for the city of Goodyear, since the loss of taxation is not going to be there anymore. Secondly, or I guess additionally, according to the Planning and Zoning Commission that I witnessed last week, there's an additional 9,100 dwelling units that are planned for the city of Goodyear. That's an exceptional amount. They talk about this is going to be a high-end luxury apartment at the committee meeting. They talked that the rents were going to be $1,900 to $2,400 per month. With the additional 9,100 apartment complexes, I don't feel that that's going to be sustainable. I think there are other excellent opportunities in the city of Goodyear that better represent the general plan, that also better represent the theme of the area. For example, those are beautiful, nice-looking, established 2-story multifamily housing. The farmhouse on Estrella, I back up to those. I think those are very well done. I think they look professional. I think they're attractive. They don't they don't compound much to the traffic on the corner of Van Buren and Van Buren and Bullard. And then additionally, right around this area here, I see that you have the 2-story condos and the townhomes that also represent, I think, the theme of the area better than a large 4-story apartment complex. Something else to consider is that as I go up and down Estrella, they talk about people are demanding apartment complexes. If they were in so demand, why would I see signage out there that talks about concessions such as 1 month free rent, 2 months free rent, reduction of rents loss of no need for deposits, things along those lines to try and attract residents to multifamily housing. So with that, I appreciate your time. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Next.
Robert Trimble.
Okay, I'm going to probably repeat a few things, but my name is Bob Trimble. I'm a resident and a homeowner of Goodyear. I'm totally opposed to this project for a number of reasons. One, Hudson Commons, he was wrong. Every lot in Hudson Commons either completed or under construction except the 2 parking lots that support the models. This project is high density. We're at 3.73 houses per acre. They're going to be 25 houses per acre. Next door we have, along that boulevard, next door we have a single-story apartment complex already completed. If you go across the street, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more, all the way down to the freeway. They all touch each other except where a street goes through and they can't touch each other. 4 sit behind a commercial. 1 of them is on the boulevard. High density. This project will put 7 apartment complexes just on that 1 mile stretch. If you continue under the freeway, the 6 lanes goes to 4 lanes and it's starting to bottleneck. You go under the freeway, you get on Pebble Creek, you only have to go 3/4 of a mile and there's 5 more complexes. 2 of them are completed, 3 of them are under construction. 1 of them is 4-story, it sits right on the sidewalk. It's too dense. What are we doing here to this city approving these kind of projects? Last, I'd like to say, I'm a mortgage broker for 47 years. I've represented a lot of people. The people that live in Goodyear that bought a home or currently buying a home, they're making a strong vested interest for the city of Goodyear. They're stretching their budgets to own a home. It's the biggest purchase they'll ever make. Their budgets are stressed, but they love the city, they love the schools, they love the parks that you folks have laid out. They really love this city hall. It's a beautiful building. The problem is they have a vested interest to make sure that this city does a good job. These developers, including this one, is out of state. I'm sure they're out of state. They don't have a vested interest in this city. They have a vested interest in the project to make money, and that's it. So please, deny this project. 10 years from now, we're all going to look back if we continue to build these massive complexes. I came from Southern California, I was born and raised in Redondo Beach. I saw what happened there. 10 years from now, you're going to look back and go, oh my gosh, why did we approve all these high-density residential units? Please deny this project. Thank you for your time.
Next.
Christopher Lopez Dominguez.
Christopher, name, Goodyear resident, 3 minutes.
My name is Christopher Dominguez. I am a Goodyear resident. I've been here since 2002 and have had the privilege of watching this city grow and become. My children have played here and we enjoy the parks. We're so happy with the innovation in the parks and recreation avenue that has been taken as far as how we spend and how we utilize our space. I'm here today to oppose this opposition because I do also live in Hudson Commons. And I'm here on behalf of my family, my neighbors, and my friends who have expressed their concern over the privacy and the noise and mostly the traffic. I am in appreciation for the measures that they've seemed to have taken into those concerns. However, I am here to also recommend that we go with the Planning Commission's recommendation and deny this request. Thank you and have a good day.
How many more do you have?
Mayor, I have an additional 17 cards, but none wish to speak. 7 have stated they are in support of the staff recommendation, and 10 have stated they oppose the recommendation.
How many?
It states that they're in favor of the staff recommendation.
And you said it was 10 that were.
7 in favor, 10 opposed.
How many more do we have to speak?
That's it, we're done.
We're done?
Yes.
Okay. Whoops.
That question was very confusing. I think that in behalf of our community members, there should be like a revote because it's stated with the staff and we weren't really aware of what staff were.
Okay, I think we got a flavor of, of all of what's on here. All right.
Can I say something real quick?
No, we're gonna, you got a card?
But I don't want to speak, but can I speak? Just real quick.
On this one? Yeah. Hey, come on up.
So, my name is Ashley. I'm a Goodyear resident. I actually live in Wildflower, and what I didn't hear from the presentation and the other people before me is that, so this apartment complex is actually zoned for Wildflower Academy, and currently it has a maximum student count of 650. For the 2021-2022 year, they were at 604. So there is at least one child for half of the apartments here. That's going to put it at or over maximum. So you're going to exceed and have an overcrowded school that can't meet those kids. So I just wanted to make that point.
Okay, thank you. Now, for the council, there's 2 recommendations, okay? So we're going to go ahead, and the city clerk, first of all, let me close this. City clerk, please read the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation first.
Deny the request to rezone the property from final planned area development with underlying C2 general commercial zoning to final PAD with underlying multifamily 24 multifamily zoning.
Okay, will the city clerk please read Resolution 2023-2349 by title only?
Adopt resolution number 2023-2349 declaring as public records those certain documents incorporated by reference in those certain documents incorporated by reference in ordinance 2023-1593 rezoning approximately 11.37 acres of land located west of the southwest corner of Estrella Parkway and Van Buren Street from final planned area development with underlying C2 general commercial zoning to final pad with underlying multifamily 24 zoning.
Okay, since there's 2 different recommendations this evening, I'm going to make it clear. I've got Wally with the motion and Bill with the second. Wally, which motion are you going with? Are you going with the one for the planning commission, or are you going for the one for the staff? No, I'm just getting the motion out there first. There's 2 separate motions, so we got to do them one at a time. Which one?
I'm just moving it so we can talk about it.
Right, that's what I mean, basically.
Yeah,
Which
the
one?
first one's fine.
Which one?
The first one.
The very first one, okay. The second, are you in agreement with her?
The first one is planning and zoning.
Planning and zoning recommendation.
No, I'm not.
You're not in favor of that, so,
I'm not going to second that.
okay, I need a
Well, then I'm
second.
going to put it back. Well, it's too confusing.
No, it's not. Recommendation, okay? One's the planning and zoning.
That we accept it?
That we accept the planning and zoning commission. The second one is to go ahead and adopt the actual apartment, all right? So,
We
but
can still
there's
vote.
2 of them, but the first one, the first one
Okay,
is,
I
so
got
you're
it.
planning and zoning, so I need a second so we can start the discussion on planning and zoning. Do I have a
Okay,
second
I'm going
on
to stay
planning
as
and
a
zoning?
second, at first.
You got a first. Do I have a second for the planning and zoning? It's not you, Bill. Do I have a second
We can't even talk about
for
it.
the planning and zoning recommendation?
This is just
Yeah.
Just to talk.
Yeah.
Are you a second?
Oh.
I thought you had it.
Okay, so now we got a second, now we can discuss.
Okay.
All right, first up, Sherry,
Oh, I'm not first up. Am I first up?
you were first button.
I was trying to second, so.
Okay, go ahead.
So first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming who lives here in Goodyear and giving us your opinion. There's a lot to hear as you different resolutions going here. I want to thank the developer who's been working on this for the last 18 months. So we've kind of got a lot going on here. And I've been going back and forth as I've been listening to everybody speak. First of all, one thing that's really important is we are a growing city. We're the 9th largest growing city. So I have a few questions, if I may, Mayor.
Yes, that's
and
what
then, what is our current stock in housing? I think for apartments, what's our current percentage housing versus single family versus apartments?
I think
Christopher will do it.
Christopher?
Yeah.
I need to phone a friend.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, Council Member Loretano. We are approximately 19% multifamily, and approximately 80% owner occupied.
And does that include the ones that have not come online yet, or just what's online?
So that includes current occupancy. If I have information relative to the numbers of multifamily in various stages, because this is a moving number, as you can tell. There's COs issued every week for new houses and new apartments and things of that nature. So that's why I'm hedging my bet just a little bit with approximately 19% and approximately 80%, because those numbers move around.
Because those numbers would also move with regard to the single family as they pull permits and
100%. That's
parcels come off too.
It moves in both directions. Yes, ma'am.
And how does that compare to some of our cities we compare ourselves with, like Gilbert, Peoria? Do we have a comparison approximately where we fall into there?
Yes, ma'am. If you let me dig around a little bit, I don't have that off the tip of my tongue, but I'm happy to. I know we have that information. What I can tell you, just high level, is that the cities like in the East Valley have a higher percentage than we do. The West Valley generally has a lower percentage of multifamily units compared to single-family units. But if you'll just let me do a little bit of research on my computer, I should be able to pull that up.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess I will be listening to what everyone else says up here, kind of see where we're at. But I think one thing is important, just as a general, when we look at the community, we have to look in, just this is a general, and then we'll talk a little bit about this specific project. In general, multifamily is not a bad thing. And I have 3 generations of my family that live in Goodyear. My dad's 85, and my kids are in college. When they graduate, my daughter wants to go to medical school. I don't think she could qualify for a house in Goodyear. No matter how much she worked for a while, I think it would take a long time for them to come back and be able to live in our community. Our firemen don't make the salaries, and sometimes, and our new officers don't make the salaries. Housing has gotten, many of you told about your American dream. You know, that's not the dream that everyone gets anymore, which is not always a good thing. We want nice multifamily, and the multifamily that is coming here, I said we'll talk about this project in a second. I can see some people nodding their head. It's very nice. If you've gone in and toured some of it, it's high finishes. It's very nice, and it's well done. The ones that I have been in here in Goodyear, some of them look like single family houses. So there's different opportunities. There's also different opportunities for people, teachers. I live up in Estrella. A starting teacher cannot buy a house on their starting salaries anymore to live in the community that they teach in. So I think that's a big issue that we have to work on. There were some people that mentioned about the legislature and about the taxes. That's something our mayor has championed, that we need to make sure that growth pays for growth. And that's something that's very important. Unfortunately, our legislature did undercut us on that. But they are looking to undercut us in other ways too. They are looking to undercut us with what's called by right zoning, which means y'all, if they pass something like that, we don't get any say in what it looks like. We don't get any say in where it goes. So there's worse things coming. And so that's one thing I look at when I look at what we can plan ahead of time and what we can make sure that we get in there before we don't get a say, or if we don't get a say. When we look at the specific complex, they have made a lot to make it look very nice. There's a lot of glass, a lot of finishes. It just doesn't look like, it may not be your taste, it may not be my taste, but it is very high-end looking. We also have to look at the character of the community. We've heard a lot of issues with traffic, and there could be other retail there. I don't know what retail would go there or not, and that Safeway technically doesn't count as an anchor across the street, though, unfortunately. So is it going to be something like where the Sonic is, some inline? Could that maybe go there? Or is there still room to put something there? So I think those are things that I am looking at, and I look forward to hearing the discussion. And if I have other thoughts, once we hear from Christopher and everything, I will chime back in. So thank you.
Vice Mayor.
The new system, thank you. First off, I want to welcome those of you who are new residents to Goodyear who have located here, and congratulations to those of you who have become homeowners. Hudson Commons is a great location. It's convenient to everything, and those of us who are serving here remember when it was alfalfa fields, and so it's been a big transition. And as Tano talked, there has definitely been an expansion of multifamily, and I would say probably most of us are seeing multifamily coming up in our neighborhoods, and it's unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your point of view, this is the current housing trend, and if anyone driving through Phoenix, you'll find it everywhere. So, Steve, I do have a question for you, and then I have some more comment. There is a minimum of 100-foot between the residence and the apartment, the three-story apartment. Is that a city standard?
Mayor, council members, yes, that comes from the zoning ordinance.
That is the zoning ordinance. Thank you. That's my question. So when you hear the stories and the emotions tied to it, then you have to start thinking logically, what is our city standard? Our zoning ordinance is 100 feet. And so we have either met or exceeded that, because some areas it's 150 feet. So this Saturday, Mr. Kano and I went out with a tape measure, and we measured 100 feet from the wall out into the dirt to get an idea, because when I hear 100 feet, I don't know how far that is. I have no concept of it. I understand a school bus is 35 feet. So just to put that in context. So you have some 100 feet. Then I went to a Cerro Roosevelt, which is a three-story apartment complex under development right now on Estrella. It backs up to the Fulton homes, and I measured from their wall to that, and it's close to 100 feet. And then lastly, I went to Robeson Reserve, which was also a very controversial multifamily project, and measured from the wall of the residence to Robeson Reserve. It's 100 feet. So we have consistently established and maintained 100 feet is our standard as written. And so this project complies with that. And I think when we have a standard, it's important that we abide by it. I know that infill projects are just going to continue to be difficult. They're coming into spaces, and they're being approached in different ways. And that's going to continue to be a challenge. And I know that traffic is a legitimate concern. Anybody driving right now anywhere of Goodyear, we're having a lot of challenges with traffic, not only just the increase in people being here for employment here, with the road work, with the infrastructure going on. I mean, every which way you go right now is a challenge. But I will tell you that even as the Estrella residents grow way down south, that's going to impact traffic on Estrella Parkway. Everything we do is going to continue to bring more traffic. And ironically, it's the increased density that is now starting to drive commercial. Commercial did languish for a long time, but it's coming back, and we're starting to see it. Much more activity at our Canyon Trails Center. We're seeing at GSQ along the McDowell corridor. Certainly every available space on Estrella Parkway is filled up with a business. There's many business owners moving to Goodyear as well, looking for places. And so definitely those are all starting to fill up. I wanted to comment also, like Councilmember Loretano, this project has been in the works 16 months. We have had ongoing conversations with the applicant and the applicant's representative. They have had significant input from council on the, and I was pleased to hear that they took into consideration the comments from the residents. So I just want to comment and say we've established that we have family residents backing up to other homes within that 100-foot zoning standard that we've accepted.
Councilmember Stipp.
That was number 2. Christopher, are you ready to answer the question?
Yes, sir. I have that information.
Take my.
I'll yield back plenty. Don't worry. Mayor, Council, so the West Valley, Surprise, Gilbert, Peoria are all very similar with relative percentages of multifamily. I'm looking at some late 2021 data, which is the best I could find in short notice. So Surprise at the time was about 8%, Gilbert was about 13%, Peoria was about 15%. This is about a 1.5 to 2-year-old data, so I know they've all been growing like we are, so we're all relatively close in the same boat. Some East Valley cities, back in 2021, Mesa was 25%, 20%. Of course, Tempe being the outlier of 50% because there's the universities there. So, but generally north of 25% for East Valley cities.
Okay. While you're, you may know this. You may Estrella Parkway I-10 widening project. Where does that sit in our CIP queue? Is that you or is that Steve?
I'm going to phone a friend on that one.
I was rolling the dice and maybe you talk.
Only if they knew that was the question.
Mayor, Councilmember Stipp, that project is currently at about 90% design. We're currently working through an IGA with ADOT, hoping to get started with construction by the end of the fiscal year, hoping to be done with construction in 2025. That's the best information I have today for that.
So those not familiar with fiscal years will probably start construction by June of next year. Takes about a year to build.
That's
plus or minus.
That's the plan, plus or minus. We can work through the IGA, but yes.
Yeah. No plan survives first contact with the enemy. So, and that being ADOT in this case. All right, thank you. I appreciate the info on that. You know, I'm not going to repeat a lot of what kind of has been said. Really struggled with this project when it first came to us 16 months plus ago. It seemed pretty simple. We've got a vacant parcel of commercial. We had already been in discussion with the developer of Canyon Trails Town Center at Yuma and the 303 about converting the vacant or the proposed Home Depot lot into multifamily. We're being told by the multifamily, by the shopping center owner that the multifamily will help them fill it. Did not sound, that was kind of counterintuitive, I think, when we first heard it. I know it was for me, that didn't seem to make sense, but once we went through it and put the multifamily in there, literally within about 6 months, all of the rest of the pads were full. So it, on the heels of that, these guys come in and say, hey, we kind of want to do the same thing. Steve, I'm going to have you go up. Can you go back to the presentation, bring up the site plan? I know you're not doing it, but, okay. Where's the photo on this that shows the area behind this white box? It might be this one. Do we have a better picture of this one?
No, sir. This is
Okay, so the print in yellow, which would be east of the site. So literally right at the corner of Van Buren, right there. That lot, that, I'm gonna call it a lot for lack of, that is, that zoning is staying intact, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Commercial. Is it pad sites? Is that what we've got there? Talk about that parcel for me. Because that's not come up in any of our conversations.
Correct. Mayor, council members, that's about, from Hudson to Van Buren, it's about 8 acres. Half has been developed, so you have about maybe 4 acres left. If you look at what's existing, maybe you think about that may go up here, what could fit. If you look across the street, maybe a similar width, so potential development plans could look something like what's existing now.
And that remains. So we're doing all of the commercial per se. Hold on, folks. The illustration that the applicant had showing a shopping center is pretty telling. And when we talk about commercial viability on the corner, this is one of the last large commercial parcels left north of the freeway. And south of the freeway, north of the river, and east of the 303. Is that correct? Yeah. Of all of the development that's gone in, this parcel still has not developed. And I think we should all be concerned as to why that's the case. It's been owned by the same family. They've been trying to develop it since the very beginning. I think this is probably the third iteration of what I'm seeing on this particular corner, if you will. We're just not seeing it, and I know it's difficult to get your head around the commercial viability, but the parcel's too big for neighborhood commercial, and it just it's lost its ability to be a viable commercial corner. I think we've heard that over and over again, and that's the part that's really frustrating with this, because I share your concern that, okay, what do we do there? And I listened to the comments about, well, the legislature was looking at by right zoning, which means if that had passed, we wouldn't even have had a conversation about what does this building design look like? What does this layout look like? They would have had by right to just walk in and say, we want this multifamily, and we walk through the door. So it puts us in a very difficult bind between what do the residents really want, and we hear very loud and clear, we are kind of tired of multifamily. Commercial and entertainment, but none of that is going to go in there. It's all going to be centered around the 1 million square feet that's available here in this campus between Bullard and the Wash and McDowell and Canto or Virginia or whatever road you want to call it. There's 1 million square feet of retail space available in there. That's where everybody's going to want to go. They're not going to want to go on the corner of Van Buren and Estrella Parkway. So what do we do? And then I've got this legislative action hanging over my head of the possibility of them just walking in and walking through and saying, well, we can put up whatever we want. So I'm jammed in a devil you know versus devil that you don't. We have worked with these folks for 16 or 18 months to try to get the absolute best product that we could get. It feels very 11th hour-ish for us to change our mind.
but I am exceptionally sympathetic to your desires in that particular area. As a matter of fact, we talked about McDonald's in your neighborhood, and I voted with the neighbors on that particular one. Just because the location, we're putting 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag there. Here we have a 10-pound bag, and we're leaving room for 12 pounds of potatoes. So I'm very conflicted. I'm not sure where necessarily I'm headed on this. I think if we just look at this thing very logically, why here? Well, look how close it is to I-10. Where's everybody going to work? If they're not working here in Goodyear, they're driving east. They want to be close to I-10. I don't think it takes a lot to figure out why this corridor has become very popular. The statistics that Mr. Ray talked about from the Harvard study, there's a number of information that's been put out about what's happening multifamily-wise. It's astonishing. I know when I first moved out, it was apartment and then house. There was zero question about anything in between, and we didn't move into luxury apartments. We moved into the worst of the worst kind of places because it was designed for you to get out. We don't have that. I'm looking, Sherry, you talk about your kids with student loan debts. My son is, fortunate for him, is carrying $500 a month in student loan debt, plus his $2,200 a month in rent, plus, he's fortunate right now he has no car payment. I don't know I know how they're making it, but he's got a girlfriend. That's how he's doing it. I'll just tell you. I don't want to make it sound nefarious. He's got a roommate. But in any event, it's a statement of today. There's no way he's going to save $40,000 to make a 10% down payment on a house. He's just not going to do it. Not until he gets a $500 a month car payment off his back. Student loan payment off his back. So it's a weird time in society. Like I said, I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but we've heard a lot tonight from the residents. Please don't think for a minute that hasn't weighed on me personally, and I'm sure everybody else. So thank you very much for being here tonight, and I'll listen to the rest of the comments.
Councilmember Hampton?
Thank you. Checking out these new mics here still. So, has some comments, I think, for Steve, or maybe, I'm not sure. We'll see here. We'll help what happens here. So, I want to address the parking issue. I think that Gene brought up on the actual, just making sure, I'm sure that we've done the homework on that there's an appropriate number of parking spaces. So I just wanted you to speak a little bit about that to make sure that we're meeting the standards of what a normal apartment multifamily unit might take for parking spots.
Mayor or council members, for the action before you tonight is the rezone, so parking's not part of that consideration. However, we are starting to look at more of a site plan level and looking at what kind of parking would be required. In looking at apartment complexes, we have a standard in the zoning ordinance that pretty much is a standard for every apartment complex in the city. What we found is each one comes with a parking requirement depending upon their unit counts, how it's designed. With this site, they may be looking at that 490 number as a number that works for their unit mix. However, they see, a zoning standard, so they would be required to submit a parking study as part of that to prove that they would provide enough parking spaces for their residents and guests. So we're going to be at that stage. Should this move forward, that would be the next step.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to publicly talk about that process with everybody as well. And then, who else was it? I think Lucero, Carroll, and other people were talking about traffic in that area as well. So I just want to go back to the site plan, Van Buren and then Hudson Road. So it looks like it's right in, right out there on Van Buren. And then the timing, to Councilmember Stipp's point on the traffic light. So when the traffic light, I think, is 2 years out, we thought, to be completed at Hudson there. When does this, I know they move pretty quick building some of these apartment complexes, so I was curious the timing of when the light to, and obviously we don't know when they're going to start actually building it, but I just want to make sure that we have the proper ingress egress to safely exit people in and out of this proposed development, and then also for the residents as well.
Mayor, Councilmember Hampton, the signal at Hudson and Estrella is currently designed, and we're about to commence construction. Construction should be complete by the end of the fiscal year, so June 2024.
Okay. All right.
The question I asked was about I-10 in Estrella.
Oh, I-10 in Estrella. Okay.
So,
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious about that particular spot. So this will be done in, that light at Hudson, you said it'll be done in 2020, next year?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So that should be at least helpful for that area right there, whatever goes in there. And then I just want to clarify also on our public notifications. So we notify the school district, Avondale Elementary School, when we are proposed places are coming into their communities, so that they are notified and they know potential impact to their school count or their school capacity level. That's correct, right?
Mayor, council members, yes, sir, that is correct. With this application, as in others, we do send notification to the school districts, and we did follow up with both the elementary school district and the high school district. We did receive acknowledgement that they did receive the notice, that they were aware of this project. However, they did not share any comments with us in terms of opining on this one.
Yeah, and that could be potentially why they're looking for more bonding and things like that to not just this project, but all of the growth within the city of Goodyear. So I just want to address that as well. And then also, let me look here, my other questions were, yeah, I had an issue with this in the beginning too. I really want more commercial in Goodyear. I'm south of here as well, and I would love to see more and more commercial in our city. I think we are lacking it. But like I said, for this particular parcel, with the study that the developer showed, with the Harvard study, with everything else, I don't know what can go there, the feasibility study of it. So we'll see what everybody else has to say here too, but I obviously want the best and highest use of this area for our city to continue to grow, but also provide amenities and things for our city's citizens. So I do definitely appreciate everybody coming out here as well, and I'll be looking to see where everybody else lands on this as well. So I might have more questions, but I think I'm good for right now. Thank you.
Councilmember Campbell?
Thank you. At build out, Goodyear is going to be 750,000 people. So think about that. We're 13% built out, only 13%. I've lived in Goodyear since 1999. I came when there were cotton fields. I was out in the middle of nowhere. I-10 wasn't even finished. And I've seen the growth. People want to come here for many, many reasons. They come here for work. They come here when we retire. They come here to be near family. Or they just want to get out of a high tax area from a different state. Because Arizona historically has provided a haven for anyone that wanted to move here. I wanted to just share with you that you talk about a developer coming out of Texas. I'm from Texas. I take that very personal. I was born and raised there. I'm the only one of 5 kids that left. But we don't have a lot of local developers. We don't have a lot of local builders that build like this. So when we attract a developer from out of state, it's really very nice that they would even take a look at our city. Because for years, they all looked at Mesa and Chandler and East Valley. They didn't come out to the west. They said, it's too far. We have to have lunch before we drive out. So it's our time to build and it's our time to develop. And our economic development department works every single day trying to get more restaurants, entertainment, more of retail. I don't like driving to 67th and 101 to pick up a skirt at Chico's because there's no place out here to buy one. Local, but they all say until you get density, we're not coming. We can't sustain what we have. So that's why when these apartment complexes, the multifamily come, we take a really hard look at it. And while you don't want it next door to you, that lot has sat empty for as long as I've been here, and no one wants it. It's just not developable. It took us forever to get Culvers to come into where they are. We probably worked on Culvers 6 years. So we hear what you say. We understand what you say. You want your privacy. I get it. You don't want the mountains to be hidden, but they will be eventually because we will be building more out there. Estrella is still building. King Ranch is going to develop. Traffic is going to be a nightmare. And we know it. It is a nightmare. It's been a nightmare since probably the last 10 years. And we're trying to mitigate that. We're trying to do smart signals. We're trying to make the roads better. We're doing all that we possibly can. But I don't want you to not think that there are people in their season of life that they don't need multifamily housing. We have families that live here that want to move their parents here. Well, they don't necessarily want to go to a 50 or older community. They want to be around other people. And they want an upscale. They want to live somewhere upscale. And then there's the people right now that don't want to go to work, but they want to work at home because they're doing everything on the computer and they don't want to own a home. They've seen their parents struggle year after year with taxes and mowing the lawn and painting the house and fixing the plumbing, and they don't want to do that. They want to rent someplace that's very nice so that they can do their work and then go and play. So we have all types of multi-family housing here. We have all different types of people that look here. We've got we have Amazon, we have Sub-Zero. They make the Wolf ranges and the Sub-Zero refrigerators. We have Dick's Sporting Goods. We have REI. We have all of these. Well, their people have to live somewhere. They have their company managers, and they don't necessarily want to go and buy a house, and they want to rent someplace. And we have folks that come in and out of the Goodyear Airport that lease several of these little tiny houses for their corporation executives, and it works for them. So I'm just telling you, we hear what you say. We're doing the very best we can do, but we know we have to plan smartly, and we have to plan for the future because the other cities have run out of land and we have it. And Buckeye has it. So that's why everybody's looking at us in Buckeye. Unfortunately, Buckeye doesn't have the water and we do. So that's why we're growing. And when I moved here, I don't think there was an apartment house. I don't remember seeing one. And I couldn't believe I was in a city that didn't have a library, didn't have a rec center, didn't have any apartments. I thought I was in the boondocks. And that's why I ran for council. And now we have a rec center, now we have a library, and we have apartments. So you just have to really work at it and just know that we hear you, we understand, and you want your privacy. We get that. But then on the other hand, we have a commitment to a developer that we have worked with for almost 2 years, and we keep sending them back saying, we don't like your land. We don't like
Whoa, settle
this.
down. Settle down.
But on the other hand, we come back with them and we say, all right, now we need to hear from the public. And I appreciate you being kind and polite, because that's what we are here. And we'd like to hear the rest of it, and then we'll end up voting. I want you to know this council doesn't always agree with planning and zoning. We do not vote yes just because they vote yes, and we don't vote no just because they vote no. So please take that in consideration. We are the final body to approve it. They just make a recommendation to us. That's all it is. It's just a recommendation. So thank y'all all very much for coming. We appreciate you being here tonight, and we'll see how it goes.
Councilmember Gillis?
This is really, really difficult and really hard for me because I really do see the last vote that I took was with the McDonald's, and I was also with the families on that. I didn't want the McDonald's put in the middle of those 3 subdivisions, and so I was a no. Before I got elected, I live here. I've lived here for 13 years. I don't like the warehouses. I didn't like the apartments. I didn't like any of it. Of course, I was just like you. I was exactly the same. What's happening to this area that I moved to that was supposed to be small and this and that? So I thought. Once I was elected, I then found out, actually before I got elected, I found out about the warehouses because there were so many people that really hated those. So when I asked the city about the warehouses, and I've talked about this before, they're in flight paths. Most of them are in the flight paths, at least since I've been elected. They have been put in there and before, where we can't build anything. You cannot build any multi-level or single level in those flight paths because of crashes and whatever. So the warehouses also pay for our taxes in this city, so a lot of our taxes, so we are lucky at that. I had no idea about that either. So I was educated on that, on something that I had no idea either as a citizen of this city. The multi-levels, as everybody else up here has said, we have found out, and GSQ is one of our major developers here, is bringing in what you all have wanted, which is restaurants and you know, any type of anything that's going to go in as far as shopping and that kind of stuff, because the mall has been supposed to be going in for how many years? And of course, that's not there anymore. That's not going in. To get that, we do have to have a density, whether we like it or not. We do have to have it, or they will not bring those places here. So it's kind of, it was kind of bittersweet for me too, because I didn't want all this either. I don't think any of us did in the beginning. But what we have realized, as Wally just said, there is going to be a very high amount of people in this city once it is finished, and a lot of us did not know that when we moved here. And so it is not going to be this small little place anymore. It's going to be a very big city. And we have to get used to that, and that's not easy when you moved here and figured, this is where I'm going to settle. I mean, I don't like seeing the farmlands go either, but they're going, whether we like it or not. So it's one of those things. I'm very empathetic and sympathetic to everything that you all have been talking about, because I have felt the same way. But once elected, I did find out the makings of a city because I didn't know what they were. And I have had to realize that this is how you do it. This is how we grow, whether we like it or not. I would like to ask Christopher something. I'd like to know when Hudson Commons went in. What year were they started? Do you remember that?
You're referring, Mayor, Councilmember, you're referring to the single family where the homes are?
Yes, that we're talking about today.
Steve, the zoning for that was approved, and I know Steve has that information, probably 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe. That the homes are new.
Yes, and they're just being finished now,
they're
or
just
are they
being finished.
finished for the most part?
They're nearly all finished. As the gentleman said, there's just 1 or 2 vacant lots.
Okay, and so the developer that is wanting to build there now has had this in the making for 18 months, they said.
Yes, so the
16 to 18 months, is that what I heard?
Hudson
I
Commons.
heard Mr. Ray say 18
Yes, ma'am.
months?
So Hudson, just if I can rewind just 1 second for you to answer your question specifically, 2016 was when the rezoning was done for Hudson Commons, and the residential component has been developing since that point. So they had to go through an engineering and plating process, and then the construction and so forth. So they're nearly complete now.
Okay.
And then we've been working, as Mr. Ray indicated, with them on their rezoning application for this multifamily component.
So while Hudson Commons was being built out, basically, right? This apartment complex also came to us during that time, within that time.
Yes, ma'am.
And wanted to get started. And they've been, they've been going back and forth, trying to get what they needed. As far, we've been telling council, I'm new, so council's been telling them what they needed to do to come back to us and give us this.
Sure, so we've reviewed, made comments, they had neighborhood meetings, and the developer did take into account a lot of the input from the neighborhood meetings and also from previous council input. As Mr. Ray stated, I know at least 3 or 4 different variations of the elevations that we've worked on and reviewed, so trying to deliver council the highest quality product that you could then make a decision.
Okay, stay there, because I'm going to need you. Mr. Ray, could you please come up to the mic? So you are here on behalf of your client, correct?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Gillis, yes, that is correct.
Okay, so how many times have you been back and forth to council asking about this in the last 18 months?
Mayor, Councilmember Gillis, I don't know that I could peg a certain number of times because
Several?
Several, but a lot of the discussions have been facilitated through staff, as Christopher indicated. It's been something that as we've gone through it, we've had input, we received some input, and then we've continued to work with staff over the course of this time period.
Okay, so, and you were told about aesthetics and different things to go along more with the city, right? With like what's going on at the ballpark and things like that to try to get it so it fills in and looks like it should.
Yeah, through the mayor, Councilmember Gillis, we're aware of that. I personally am aware of it. Our firm does a lot of work out here, and have had the opportunity, not with this current council, but with previous councils, when there have been robust discussions at this level about the quality of the developments that come in. So not only through work, but we know of the council's desire to far exceed the minimum design standards.
Okay, and you are also putting, did I notice a wall? Can you go back to the graph? There's a wall all the way around it because it's gated, so there's a wall. How tall is that wall?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Gillis, we're still working those details with staff, but it is an approximate 6-foot-high wall. In some instances, it will be a solid masonry wall. In some instances, it will be a combination of masonry and view fence, depending on the location. The specific details of that, while you can see it on there, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, we work through those finer points through the site plan process. But very preliminarily, I can tell you that it is a combination of solid walls in places and masonry and wrought iron fencing and others.
So it looks presentable, nice for the area and the other areas around it. Also, I wanted to know, because we've heard from some people that there were no flyers or no information that went out. Is that true? Or I was under the impression that there was neighborhood meetings that were.
Yeah, through the mayor, Councilmember Gillis, as I think Steve indicated, notices were provided in accordance with the city's requirements. Those are flyers that are posted, and then the site is posted as well. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's newspaper ads, I think, that go out as well. I think I could be scrambling my jurisdictions as to what the noticing requirements are, but I can stand here and say definitively we have complied with the city's requirements.
That's correct, Steve. Yes, okay. And as far as the parking, because now I just want to be sure about the parking, we're going to be able to deal with the parking issues, correct?
Yes, through the
So
mayor.
there are enough parking spaces?
Yeah, through the mayor, Councilmember Gillis, as staff indicated, we are providing less than what is required, and we have submitted a parking study. We're still working through those details with staff. That's one of those finer detail points that we work out. But as Leon Capital looks at it, they have over 15,000 units across their portfolio. And based on that experience, we believe that to a one-bedroom unit, that the ratio for that could be parked a little bit less. I mean, at the end of the day, our concern when it comes to parking, first and foremost, is to make sure that we've got enough parking for the residents. Because the last thing that we want, that Leon Capital wants, is to hear reports of our residents parking not where they should, meaning outside of the development.
Okay, I think that answers a lot of questions that I have. The only comment I would make is that, yes, we have this density thing for restaurants and shops, and we have to fill that. And I think the vice mayor did touch on that. You know, we are given a certain amount before certain spaces will, or restaurants and retail will come in here. And if we don't have that density, then we don't get it. So, and we're trying to give everyone what they have asked for. And I'm one of the people that asked for that. I want the retail, I want the restaurants in my city. And I didn't realize we had to do that, but we do. It's just how it works. And it kind of, like Bill says, goes with the devil you know and the devil you don't. And what's happening in the legislature. And there's a lot of stuff going on down there that our mayor has personally fought like crazy with residential sales tax, food tax, all of it. They did not help us this last year. And we're trying to make the best of it in this city that we can, because they did not help us. And so it's kind of a tough situation that we're all in, and we're all in it together, and we're trying to do the best we can. And I know it's very, very difficult, because it's difficult for me too, for living here. So that's all I have to say at this point. Thank you. Thank you for all your questions and concerns.
Councilmember Stipp.
Thanks, Mayor. I've got a follow-up question. So talk to me about this wall. It's only 6 feet high in the back. And then you scared me with the term view fencing. Because I don't think if this goes through, I'm sure nobody in that neighborhood wants to view what's going on in the apartment complex. So
Mayor, council members.
please talk about that.
With Hudson Commons, they did construct a wall here.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be an existing wall along that west property line here. Where the view fencing would go, and where it's encouraged, is here and along residential privacy issues. So we have a single wall here. We will not have another wall. We want to avoid that kind of canyon effect. So this wall, existing wall, will remain. We'll have view fencing along these other areas.
Okay, so the view fencing is where view fencing would be appropriate.
Yes, sir.
Because I know we've done it in prior projects that are now problematic for us, so we just wanted to make sure we weren't creating a similar situation with this project. The other is the tree line in the back. According to the picture, it looks pretty extensive, but then I thought early in your presentation about every 30 feet, which is not. 30 feet's a big spread, so what is it? Is it the picture that looks a lot closer, or is it 30 feet?
Mayor, council, the requirement in the stipulation is one tree 30 feet on center. And that is for the health of the tree. If we overcrowd them, then they do not survive. So that's the proposal.
I think we got something there from Christopher.
Yes, sir. Just to add on just a second for what Steve was saying. Thank you, Steve. We want to pick the right tree, the right species for the right space so they grow together as a canopy that actually works as intended, and not just say, "Ooh, let's have them really close together," and then half of them die and things of that nature. And we actually don't get the result that we want. So, plus we want to be water smart and use the right tree with the right canopy to has the intended effect with the least amount of water use possible. So that's going to be worked through with the landscape architect during the construction documents, so we can ensure we get the right tree with the right water use.
All within city design guidelines? And
Yes, sir, 100%.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, good enough.
All right, my term out. Unfortunately, prior to what a lot of us have been on council, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's about 10,000 units, and remember, in the entire city that permits haven't even been pulled yet. Is that an accurate number?
Mayor, thank you. Yes, sir, there's approximately 10,000 entitled that do not have permits. That do not have
The only
permits.
time we can make any change really is on if they're entitled, that there's nothing we can kind of do with that.
Correct.
And when it comes to warehouses, I'd like for us all to use the term employment centers, because we have manufacturers and a lot of them that generate the jobs that are putting people in the restaurants, et cetera. So warehouses, I always envision warehouses where you got one guy with a forklift who's moving around. That's not necessarily what's happening in these places. Even though Councilmember Gillis is right, a lot of them are in the flight path, and that can only be built there, not residence or certain type of commercial. So my only concern, to be honest with you, and I've shared this with the owner, I wish there was less density. We had talked about 3 all the way around, but it sounds to me that the majority of the council doesn't really have an issue with that. So now keep in mind, when we open up the voting, okay, what's on there right now is to vote for what is it? I'm drawing a blank here. P&Z, okay?
Deny.
So an aye means deny. So keep that in mind. A nay means that you're against the P&Z, okay? So just make sure you get it right, because you're all used to voting aye. All right. It's in favor of the P&Z right now. That's the motion on there. So an aye means you're in favor of killing this project, all right? A nay means we got to put another motion on the table. Is everybody clear on that? A nay means I put another motion on the table. Is everybody clear? You got it? You sure? You got it? Sure? All right, I just want to make sure you're not button. All right? So again, if you're against this project, it's a aye. No, remember, the aye is against. It's the opposite. Nay means we go to another thing, okay? All right, with that, open it up, and hopefully you guys get it right here, all right? Fails 6-1. So now I need the motion carries, denied 6-1. Just one vote, aye. So with that, would the city clerk please read ordinance 2023-1593 by title only?
Apologies, Mayor. The council would still need to move on Resolution 2023-2349, declaring a public record.
Oh, I got to go back? Okay, sorry. All right, where is it? City clerk read resolution. Okay, go ahead. Back to adopt a public record.
Adopt Resolution Number 2023-2349, declaring as public records those certain documents incorporated by reference in those certain documents incorporated, in Ordinance 2023-1593, rezoning approximately 11.37 acres of land located west of the southwest corner of Estrella Parkway and Van Buren Street from final planned area development PAD with underlying C2 general commercial zoning to final PAD with underlying multifamily 24 zone.
Get a motion and second? I got a motion and second. Now on this one, it's the reverse. Okay, we open it up. Okay, so this one is the staff recommendation. This is an aye. If you don't want the staff recommendation, it's a nay, right?
And the staff is this.
That's correct. Correct. So go ahead and open the voting.
Actually, can we do a verbal vote for this one? Our system isn't allowing us.
Oh, okay.
I apologize.
Verbal vote, Councilmember Gillis.
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp.
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Kano.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Hampton.
Aye.
Mayor votes nay. Passes 6-1.
Thank you, Mayor.
Now, with that, before we take the next one, can we take a break, 10 minute?
Mr. Mayor, you haven't voted on the ordinance yet. You just voted on the resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Need to move on to the ordinance.
Oh, moved on to, okay. Excuse me, come on back, Bill.
They need to have the clerk read the ordinance and then take a.
Okay,
motion.
sorry. All right, go ahead and read the ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I'm glad you can keep me straight.
Adopt ordinance number 2023-1593, conditionally rezoning approximately 11.37 acres of land located west of the southwest corner of Estrella Parkway and Van Buren Street from final planned area development PAD with underlying C2 general commercial zoning to final PAD with underlying multifamily 24 zoning, amending the zoning map of the city of Goodyear, providing for non-abridgment, providing for corrections, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, providing for penalties, and directing the city clerk to record a copy of this ordinance.
All right, I need another motion and second, which I have, right? Yes. So go ahead and open the voting. You can do, we're good. All right, go ahead. Passes 6-1. Now, can we take a break? 10 minutes. All right, the next public hearing item to consider is an amendment to zoning, establish a new business park district. I'm going to open the public hearing. You're up, Steve.
Mayor Council, Steve Carecchia, Planning Manager. Before you tonight is a text amendment to the zoning ordinance. Current state, we've been looking at it since about 1999. Amendments are permitted for general welfare, health, and safety. And the item before you tonight, we're looking at current development trends, looking at the large footprint buildings with the truck courts, looking at available zoning districts with having commercial and industrial, but really nothing in between those. And looking at feedback from the community, locations for these type of uses, appropriate development standards, and more options to develop. And so direction from council, create a business park district, support certain commercial and employment type uses. What you would see from the street would be building fronts and not dock doors and truck courts. Those would be internalized, so all facilities would be in the back, away from public view. And if done right, these could be in transitional areas and even in proximity to residential. So we worked with outside counsel to create a new district. And the one before you tonight is the Business Park District. It'll go in our commercial district standards. And what it'll do, it'll be a mix of business and employment uses in an attractive environment, campus-like setting with open space. Again, the loading docks, of that will be internalized in the back. And if done right, it'll be compatible with existing development. Where these can go, we're thinking adjacent to arterial and non-residential collectors or rail lines, near existing and proposed employment. Also has transition between commercial and heavier industrial type uses. And again, if done right with proper buffers and context-sensitive design, this could be appropriate next to residential. And so some of the standards that you've seen in the proposed language, internalized courts, that's where the docks, the service bays, the doors, that's where that will be. Screen storage, everything will be screened with this development. Above ground equipment, that'll also be in the courts. Open space, we're going to have 5%. That'll be visible, so visible from the street. That'll be usable for customers and employees of the site. And again, the intent of all of this is that we'll have buildings facing the street, not storage areas or equipment. The max building height, 56 feet. That mirrors the C2 general commercial. So that will stay the same with that. And again, with that, we'll have increased setbacks if we're next to residential. And this is a picture of what we're hoping to see from this new business park district. This was a development that came before council earlier this year in January. And as you can see from this development, surrounding streets here, people driving by will see storefronts, glass, entries. Everything back of house will be internalized, screened from the street, walls, but generally internalized. So buildings will be the screen for the trucks, for any equipment. And another big component, open space. You'll have visible open space, connections, amenities for, again, employees and visitors to the site. Public review, we went through all of the required public notice required for this item. Sent it out to our developer forum, also was placed on our website. No opposition to the new district. And our findings, it promotes direction from the council, provide additional opportunities for our developers, another zoning district that they can utilize. Promotes the general plan, health, safety, and welfare. And at the commission hearing on the 13th, the commission did vote to forward a recommendation to the council. And with that, staff and the commission, we are recommending approval. Mayor, council, includes my presentation, available for any questions.
Since you're the applicant, do we have any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Okay, anybody in the audience like to speak? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Will the clerk please read Resolution 2023-2345 by title only?
Adopt Resolution 2023-2345 declaring as public record that certain document referred to and incorporated in ordinance number 2023-1592 filed with the city clerk amending provisions in Article 3-3 Commercial Districts of the Goodyear zoning ordinance to add a new business park district.
Thank you. Will the council please enter a motion and a second? Resolution 2023-2345. I see a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and open up to speak. I see Councilmember Gillis. You're up.
Thank you, because I think the mayor and I were pretty indignant about wanting this. And I was wondering when it was coming before us. I've asked Christopher 500 times, maybe 501. So thank you. Thank you for taking care of it. I do appreciate it. It will make all the difference in the world in some of the things we do where we put these buildings and what we call them, these employment centers. So I think we should have an idea of where we're at now. So thank you for this, you guys.
Councilmember Loretano?
I also want to thank you for bringing this forward. I know this was the mayor's idea when we started talking about differentiating between, not everything is industrial, and it was too broad of a category for some of these campus-like settings and environments that have a lot of, so people know, like mom and pop type stores, family businesses. This was where Bill and Sherry's sandwich shop is going to go at some point. So it can be a whole variety of things so that people know. So I'm very excited, and I think this opens up a whole other avenue for development to bring more and different types of local and community jobs to our neighborhood. So thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to round it out by I appreciate you bringing this before us. With that, go ahead and open up the voting. Passes 7-0. Let's see. Will the city clerk please read ordinance 2023-1592 by title only?
Adopt ordinance number 2023-1592, amending City of Goodyear zoning ordinance Article 3-3 Commercial Districts to establish a new business park zoning district, providing for corrections, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, providing for penalties, and directing the city clerk to record a copy of this ordinance.
Thank you. Will the council please enter a motion and a second to approve the ordinance 2023-1592? I see a motion and a second up on the board. Open for council discussion. Don't see any. Open for voting. Motion carries 7-0. Next public hearing item is consider an amendment to zoning and subdivision regulations for freeway sound attenuation? There we go. Open a public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor, Council members. Steve Correcchia, Planning Manager. Another text amendment, freeway sound attenuation. Won't go through all the background, but where we do have sound attenuation requirements both in the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations, they're basically mirrored. And what we found is we had a discrepancy with ADOT's standard, their maximum exterior noise level. And so this is a staff-initiated amendment to fix that discrepancy. Ours is 64 decibels, ADOT is 67. So we're going to fix that. Also create some footing definitions to go along with that. And again, the whole point of this is to fix that inconsistency, provide clarity for our developers so they're working with one standard. What we found was that increase to match the ADOT standards, it wouldn't be noticed by anybody in a noise environment, so our residents would not have any adverse impact from this increase. So all the public notice did occur, sent it out to the developer form, again on our website. No opposition to date to this text amendment. Again, we're hoping this provides consistency and clarity. Meets all our criteria. Planning and Zoning Commission, September 13th, voted to forward a recommendation of approval to the council. With that, Mayor, concludes my presentation. Available for questions.
We'll close the public hearing. City clerk, please read resolution 2023-2341 by title only.
Adopt resolution number 2023-2341 declaring as public records so certain documents referred to and incorporated in ordinance 2023-1589 filed with the city clerk amending provisions in the Goodyear zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations in the Goodyear City Code related to noise attenuation requirements near freeways.
Thank you. Council, please enter a motion and a second to approve the resolution 2023-2341. I have a motion on the board and a second. Open up for discussion. I see Councilmember Campbell.
Steve, we have some of our subdivisions that are up by 303 that have no sound wall, that need a sound wall, and they think the decibels should be lower than what ADOT says. Is this going to change? Is this going to help us in any way, help get a wall for those folks?
Mayor, council members, I don't know if it will get them a wall. What it does provide is when a home builder or developer come in, know what standard they're working with and that it's consistent with ADOT federal standards. So before we had inconsistency and we had developers having confusion and what to build and how to attenuate the sound. So now we're consistent. However, I don't know if going back, I don't know that this will affect
Are we not?
anything.
But everything will be 67 now from
Correct.
now on, once we adopt both of these resolutions.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks very much.
Seeing nothing more, discussion, go ahead and open up. Vote. Passes 7-0. Will the city clerk please read ordinance 2023-1589 by title only?
Adopt ordinance number 2023-1589, amending City of Goodyear zoning ordinance, Article 2, definitions, and Article 9-1, freeway development overlay district, and City of Goodyear Code of Ordinances, Chapter 15, subdivision regulations, to add definitions and change the exterior sound attenuation requirements for dwelling units and noise-sensitive uses to 67 decibels, providing for corrections, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, providing for penalties, and directing the city clerk to record a copy of this ordinance.
Thank you. The council, please enter a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2023-1589. I see a motion and a second on the board. Open for council discussion. Seeing none, go ahead and open the voting. Passes 7-0. Thank you, Steve. The next public hearing item to consider is a use permit for a convenience store and gas station, Lakin Park Convenience Store. Going to open up the public hearing. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the public.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. For the record, I'm Dave Williams. I'm a contract planner here for the city of Goodyear. In the interest of brevity, I can certainly forego a presentation, just answer any questions, or if you'd like me to, I'm happy to go through and do a presentation for you as well.
Council?
I'd be
You want a
happy
presentation?
to. Be happy to. So this is a request for a use permit for the Lakin Park Convenience Store, which is located at the southwest corner of State Route 85, MC 85 rather, and South Cotton Lane. In the proximity, we have the Goodyear Crossing Industrial Park. We have the South Cotton Goodyear Warehouse, Cedro BET Rail Investment Site, which is another warehouse facility. And then about 3,000 feet away, we have the Lakin Park Bungalows, which are currently under construction, just breaking ground right now. On this map, I do want to point out, we do have one residential structure within 500 feet of this particular site, and that's the farmhouse across the street in that farm maintenance yard. This is part of the larger Lakin Park planned area development, and what we're talking about tonight is just the 5.2 acre site right there. What they're proposing is a 4,800 square foot convenience store, approximately 4,600 square foot gas canopy for typical vehicles, a 1,900 square foot diesel canopy, propane tank with propane sales occurring, and an air filling station as far as the structures on the particular property. As we zoom in here just a little bit, I want to point out we have full access, right in, left out, everything over here on South Cotton Lane. On MC 85, we only have right in and right out. It's already blocked by the existing roadway on MC 85, so the full access is actually off Common Drive to the south. And actually, I just covered the next slide, so there we go. I would be happy to. So the access to the south is off the common drive. There is also a drive aisle, and that's the full access. There is also a right-in, right-out only at the convenience store itself, but we do have the opportunity for full access a little bit further south. Off MC 85, you can see the divided median that Maricopa County has in the roadway right there. So it's only right in, right out onto Common Drive, and then they would turn into the facility. Okay. Moving on, we have the architecture here, and we have a stipulation already built in that this will go through the site plan architectural review process as well. But the architecture right now does meet City of Goodyear standards. This is the north elevation, which is the front of the facility, and then the west elevation is what would be seen from that South Cotton warehouse. East elevation is what's going to be visible from South Cotton Lane, and then the south building elevation as well would be visible from Common Drive to the south. This is our gas canopy, and the gas canopies, both of them do match the architectural elevations of the main building. They carry the same theming throughout. And this is the diesel canopy, so a little smaller in size overall, but again, matches the architecture of the main building. As part of the use permit evaluation criteria, you have two criteria related to a use permit: that it will not be materially detrimental to persons residing or working in the vicinity for you to consider as part of your deliberations tonight, and that the proposed use is reasonably compatible with the surrounding and permitted uses in the area. As far as a convenience store, what we're also looking at in zoning ordinance section 4-2-2 is the site adequately sized for this particular use? Is it compatible with the proposed hours of operation? And this is a 24-hour facility. Have they taken care of required traffic and access mitigation measures, and then any other concerns which may place the advisability of this proposed project in question? So that's the review criteria. Now, all due process was taken care of to reach out to the public. We have received no comments at all related to the site. There were 2 signs we've posted in the newspaper. We've also done a mailing to everybody within 500 feet in accordance with the regulations. We have not received any particular public comment back. So, the Planning Commission did hold a public meeting on September 13th, and they after a brief staff presentation, we discussed one clarification, and that was the one residential unit that I did not mention during my presentation with the commission. I had missed that on there, so we talked about that. They did go through and deliberate. There was no members of the public here to provide any comment, and the commission did vote unanimously 5-0 to recommend approval to you today. As I stated, it does comply with all city requirements, and I'm happy to answer any questions for you. The applicant is also present should you have any questions for the applicant.
Applicant like to say anything at this time?
I'm certainly here and can answer any questions if needed.
Okay, why don't you hold to Pat and we'll see what comes up, okay? With that, any other speaker cards?
Yes, Mayor. Jeff Winter.
Okay.
And
We'll get him when you get the questions, all right? All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Council, please enter a motion and a second to approve use permit for a convenience store with gas station on the approximately 5.22 acres parcel located at the southwest corner of MC 85 and South Cotton Lane. We got a bunch of questions there. Open for council discussion. Well, first of all, let's say close. We got a motion and a second. Let me double check. Yeah, we got a motion and a second. Okay, we're good. All right, first up, Councilmember Campbell.
Do we know who is going to build this?
As far as any branding,
Yeah.
we do not right now.
All we're doing is giving permission to do it,
Yeah,
but we don't have anybody to do it.
Correct. I believe right now it's an unbranded convenience store and service station. Perhaps Mr. Winter can provide a little more insight on that.
Okay.
Jeff Winter with Essentia Architecture. This property will be shell, most likely, and there is a builder behind my client. They're intending to move straight into construction.
They're going to build it this year, possibly?
As quickly as possible. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor? Whoops, I jumped you. There should have been Councilmember Stipp, excuse me.
You want me to go then? You go.
Yeah.
It's my turn. So this is going to have a high-speed diesel component to it?
Correct. It is going to have a diesel component to it. The gas canopy on the western side of the property.
Yeah, can we bring the presentation back up, please?
Yes.
I know you don't have control of it. so.
Yeah, unfortunately not. But yes, this gas canopy here is for the diesel. It is set up to take the larger trucks, so any semi coming in, pulling a full trailer will be able to pull in, obtain fuel, and still make all the turning movements necessary to, get in and out of that particular site, get back out to Common Drive or MC85 with no issues.
Okay. The major north-south movement is intended on South Cotton Lane there.
Correct.
The graphic that you showed earlier, go back, that one.
Yeah.
That's just paint, correct? There's
This actually is not.
No, on the roadway.
This is full turning movement when we get down to the south here. If we come back up here, and unfortunately I don't have it zoomed in here, these are full turning movements here, so you can turn left in off northbound Cotton Lane.
Can you go back 2 slides, please? To that one?
Yes. This is not the drive that is full access. This drive here is right in, right out only. The access is actually down a little further just off my slide.
Hence why I had the question. Okay, because we
Absolutely.
talked about free access north and south, but this was the only photo that we had that showed the.
I apologize for that.
No, I just wanted to make sure I had clarity.
Yes.
Because that made no sense to me to do it that way, but now I got it. That's the only question that I have, other than to say, if there's a location for a place to fuel diesel trucks, it's probably here. So good call on the location. And then I know you guys, neither one of you represent Shell as a company, but I think we need to start thinking about encouraging high-speed electric vehicle charging stations at all fueling points that are coming. Looking at should be pointed in that direction. I'm just making a generic statement. There's no need to respond. But I think if you have an opportunity to talk to the client, have them consider, as we start looking at electrification, how can the private sector take on their role in offering that? So I'm off my. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
I had a deja vu moment when I saw this project because it looked surprisingly similar to one up on Indian School that was pulled, but including the 4 high-speed diesel pumps. So I don't see it shown where there is semi-truck parking.
The semi-truck parking is going to be very limited. The intent is not that there would be parking here, but that they would be there very briefly. Semi-trucks can park on this southern border down here of the parking field. They can come in and they can stack. I believe it's 3 semis in this particular area down here. So there is a little bit of room that can go in, use the facilities as needed, and then get back on the road. But it's not intended to be a holding facility.
Well, that's much like the other project that was up on Indian School, that it was not intended for trucks to be there, but the reality was there were no restrictions. Are there any restrictions from keeping a truck sitting there idling or staying overnight?
Idling, I believe there are Maricopa County or quality standards related to the idling of a semi. But that would be something that would have to be policed as far as parking by the property owner. We don't have any restrictions that would prohibit that.
So they're, okay. The left turnout, you have to go up to, what is it, Communion Lane? I can't read it. Whatever. Common Lane Drive. So they'll have to drive over there to get the left out.
Yes. So if you wanted to go northbound out of here, you would have to come down to, let's go back to this slide, you'd have to come down to this point here, right across from that house. And from there, you can make a northbound turn onto Cotton Lane. or exit onto MC 85, make a right turn, and then make the left turn onto Cotton.
Okay, very good. I will say that a convenience store with a gas station here is a fabulous idea. I think it will do really well. There are no immediate residents adjacent to this property, which is really good. The thing that concerns me is the diesel trucks, the commercial vehicle parking with essentially no oversight or regulation. I don't think it's realistic to say a store clerk is going to go and monitor that parking lot. And this leads to a bigger conversation that we have not had any type of forum as a council, is whether or not we are a truck stop city. In my opinion, we are not. So I will be a no vote on this one.
Councilmember Hampton?
Yeah, thank you. So I had a question on just logistics. So I know the 303 does not, the freeway extension of the 303 does not extend to here. It goes around Hudamaki and connects up to there. So really the traffic that'll be going here should be MC 85 traffic. And then the SR 30, if you go back to there, do you have the overlay of where that's supposed to go in relation to
The loop.
SR 30 that's going to be going south of there?
Oh, I apologize. No, I do not have that overlay.
Okay. I was just curious if maybe phone a friend might have one for
I
us.
think Christopher is coming up here.
Half-mile south of this location.
Of this location. Okay. I'm just trying to see the uses that might be there.
It's all of that's already zoned industrial. There was a zoning case, I think it was last year, year and a half ago, about 500 acres that we to industrial.
Okay. Yeah, because I thought when we rezoned that, though, it was going to be commercial along Cotton Lane there, and then industrial on the exterior of that. So I was just curious if that's how that fits into there.
We'll do put some memo. We'll pull that PAD. That we rezoned. It's industrial on the east side for sure, and on the west side, it's also industrial where the lake and park is, and there's buildings are getting built.
Yeah.
A little bit further to the west, there is some residential, as Dave pointed out, in the old Riverside Park. But if we'll put together a high-level map that shows all these components, and
I'm pretty sure when we approved that there was commercial up along the road, Cotton Lane itself, and then it was like this would be a commercial potential use for that. But that's what I remember it being there all along the road there, and then industrial on the sides. So maybe if I'm off, I'm off. But
we'll put together a map so everybody has all the
information. Okay, and then to Vice Mayor Keno's point, is there facilities for someone to take showers and for truck stop uses, food and everything like that, or is it strictly just gas and very quick?
This is solely intended for quick convenience. It's not intended to be like a Love's service station or a Pilot where they would have showers and those ancillary facilities. It's just intended for fueling and quick convenience uses, a little bit of food, something to drink.
Okay. And then I'm just trying to think what the feel like down there. Is there going to be, this might be a CIP question for staff, but is there intended to be a light down at their access point to the event one day, not today or next year, but is that anywhere in our purview in the future? I don't know if I need one there. But I'm just curious if the demand there, I'm just imagining all the semis rolling in, and if I'm trying to take a left going down north on Cotton, and I got semis taking left-hand turns out of there to head north. I was just curious if that was looked at all. So,
Councilmember Hampton, from a CIP perspective, that's not something that's currently in the plan. The city does check for warrants yearly. The other piece of information that potentially one of my colleagues has is when a traffic impact analysis is done on the specific project, it will identify whether or not it's needed based on the impact of this project.
Okay. And then, and also to Councilmember Stiff's point, it'd be great if I think every place had a charging station. So but But yeah, so just looking at that, that might be things we need to look at if we're going to continue to build lots more gas stations. That we might also want other uses in there as well. So, okay, I think I'm good with it. I think it'll be. I think the location's fine there, especially with all the industrial that we created down there as well. So, thank you.
Councilmember Lortano?
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming. I do appreciate it. I would also like to see electric charging, electric vehicle uses. I think, especially because how close you're down the hill from a very large residential community up there, where there will be people who go down that road. So I think that's a good place to have a charging facility for that. So I think that's important. We don't have a lot of gas stations or fueling stations in that part of our city, so I think it's very important. Like I said, a lot of people coming home from Estrella will stop in there as well for their vehicles because there really isn't a lot of fueling options till you head up the hill. I guess the other concern, I do echo the vice mayor's concern about, are there any stipulations or way to put stipulations that it's not going to have overnight parking? Is that something that can be done?
The council is absolutely able to add additional stipulations if you would like. That's certainly a stipulation that can be added. I'm looking over at the city attorney since it's the first time I've been before you, but I don't believe there would be any issue with adding a stipulation like that. And the applicant has no objections either.
If we could add that, if everyone would be okay with that, just a little overnight parking, then I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, how are you going to enforce it?
You at least got to have the ordinance, you got to have something on there to enforce, I guess, and then.
If it's included as part of the conditions of approval, the stipulations, then code enforcement could certainly be the one to enforce that.
So if we were told, if people started calling us up and saying, hey, there's a lot of overnight parking, code enforcement would go for that.
Yes, code enforcement would be the appropriate group to do that. And if I may, if we're looking for language for that, just very simply, no overnight parking is allowed. Just keep it very simple.
Are you okay with that, Brandon? Yeah. Then I'd like to amend, Mayor, I'd like to amend my motion to include the additional stipulation of no overnight parking. So, you're good. Okay.
Say that I'm done, thank you.
You okay?
Not a big deal for me, but that's okay, I'll go along with it. As far as the electric chargers, we can, the city wouldn't mandate it.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that.
Okay.
We're here to encourage.
All right, with that, let's see what we have here. Everybody looks like have spoke. We've got everything up on the board. Can we open for voting? What we got to vote on the stip added first, right?
No, we just added it,
We just added it,
amended the motion.
So then it's all part of it? We're good?
Yep.
All right, then let's vote. Passes 6-1.
Thank you. And
Thank
if
you.
I may, just for the clerk, this would be stipulation number 18 that was just added.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next public hearing item is to consider is rezoning of 47.35 acres for preliminary plan development of on industrial. Open public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Christian Williams, Principal Planner here with City of Goodyear, before you this evening with a rezoning request from Wendy Riddell for property within the city. That property is approximately 47.35 acres, and it's located at the southeast corner of Saraville Avenue and MC 85. It's this property right here in red with the arrow. It is currently zoned preliminary planned area development within the Riverside Park PAD with underlying land use of business park. So the case we were just referring to earlier that Dave just presented is right here, and so we've moved basically a mile east. Zooming in a little closer, you can see that the site is just south of MC 85 and the railroad track. It is north of the future SR 30 route and the Goodyear wastewater and surface water treatment plants. It is east of a residential portion of Riverside Park PAD, and it is just south of Elwood Logistics and some other industrial users. For a brief history on the property, in 2005, the property was zoned Riverside Park, PAD preliminarily, and the specific site in question today has an underlying zoning of Business Park on the east. In 2019, the city purchased a piece of that PAD for the expansion of our surface water treatment plant down at the 157th Avenue plant. In 2020 of June, an I-2 zoning case was created for the I-2 site. At that time also, there were some remnant parcels of 60-foot wide residential lots, 70-foot wide residential lots within Riverside Park, and ADOT has since acquired much of that property for the construction of the future SR30. So today, we're talking about this site right here with the rezoning for light industrial with a PAD overlay. So the details of that PAD overlay. The PAD overlay requests a height increase from 50 feet to 70 feet if that remnant residential parcel is removed adjacent to it. That would allow for a more diversity of uses. Additional requirements have been placed on the property to create business environment because we did not have the business park zoning until 30 days from today. So no cross-dock warehousing is permitted. No cross-dock door shall face Saraville Avenue. The westernmost industrial building shall have pedestrian connections to Saraville Avenue. They'll have a 30-foot wide landscape buffer on the south adjacent to the future SR30. Building color schemes, wall materials, and colors will be cohesive throughout the development, and the buildings will have bold colors, not simply just grays and blacks and blues, but rather natural desert colors with a bold, vibrant color. Again, here's the site just to illustrate where the SR30 is going to go. Here's the site on both slides. You can see that the SR30 is taken out from the south end, just to highlight where that freeway is going in the context of this area. And then just for some aerials or some imagery of what the area looks like, you can see that there's some very tall WAPA poles. There will be an interchange about 1.25 miles from here of the SR30 and the 303 loop. That thing up a 4 or 3 stack. You have railroad tracks and you have industrial buildings. To date, the city has not received any resident opposition. Staff has evaluated the impacts of this proposal on the greater community. With no major concerns being found, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that you approve the rezoning to I-1 with an underlying land use of business park type uses to create a business park type environment along the MC85 and Saraville Avenue. With that, I'm happy to answer any zoning related questions you might have.
Is the applicant here?
The applicant is here.
The applicant like to say anything?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Wendy Riddell with the law firm Barry Riddell, 6750 East Camelback. Christian makes my job very easy, so I'm happy to give a presentation or simply happy to answer any questions you may have. Sounds great.
Thank you. Council will enter a motion and a second. Resolution 2023-2329. I see a motion and a second up on the board, open for discussion. Councilmember Loretano is up first.
Thank you. I don't know if this is a question for Christian or Wendy. I'm not quite sure, but MC85, that's not our road. So it's only 2 lanes through there. So what happens to that?
They will have to work with the county and get permitted through the county for the improvements that the county finds necessary on that road.
Okay, and how about the light? Is that our light or is that county's light right on Saraville? Right now it just goes to the dead end? Is that us or them?
I'm not certain, but I know the signal is in place and ready to be available for future southern expansion of Saraville Avenue.
Okay, no, I think it's a great project. I think it's a perfect spot for it. It's a great place to put there as a new whatever the zoning we just did. So thank you. It's late.
Councilmember Hampton?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Can you remind me the ins and out, the egress and ingress of that parcel? You said they'll come and then go off of Saraville, or like a right turn right out on MC85?
Great question. So if they were to get access on Saraville, that would be a decision of the state of Arizona because it will be adjacent to the future SR30. It is a more likely route that they will have access off of the MC85 onto future public or private driveways.
Okay. Okay. And then it's more of a curiosity question. How big is the remnant parcel that's next to it? You said it. Do you know how many acres that is?
It's probably 5 to 10 acres. It's
Okay.
not very large.
But that's contingent. If it stays, for some reason, it stays residential, then that is contingent on them being able, their height requirements.
Yes.
So is there any interest in that 5 to 10 that we've seen?
They would need to get a rezoning either way to develop that parcel. So it's more of a carrot so that we can remove any of those remnants.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious how large that was. Okay. And, yeah, I think that's it. I'm just looking at also future growth of our water. Do we have enough room, I guess, at our public facilities district there? I don't know. That's maybe a higher level. I think we're good. I don't think the city's going to need this land, essentially, but I was just curious what that looked like. So, all right. Sorry, I'm rambling. Thank you.
Councilmember Campbell?
Thank you. So, Christian, tell me what light industrial really means. What can go in there?
I can read you some uses real quick.
Please do,
All right.
with your trusty iPad.
I know. I pulled it up just in case you
You knew I was going to ask.
I had a hunch. All right.
Okay.
3.4 light industrial.
Yeah.
Just to give you a flavor, manufacturing. Says medical marijuana, but we all know that
Can't
that's
go
not
there.
allowed use right now. Microbreweries, office buildings, parking lots, private businesses, professional trade schools, public utility facilities, scientific and research labs, veterinary offices, veterinary hospitals, things of that nature.
Okay, so will we see this project come back when we know what it's going to be?
You will not. This will be the final action.
Yikes. Okay, thank you. That's what I was afraid of. Thank you.
We all good? Yep. All right, with that, for no further discussion, time to open. Passes 7-0. Will the city clerk please read ordinance 2023-1577 by title only?
Adopt ordinance number 2023-1577, conditionally rezoning approximately 47.35 acres of property located at the southeast corner of Saraville Avenue and Maricopa County Highway 85 to be known as Southeast Corner Saraville and MC 85, amending the zoning map of the city of Goodyear, providing for non-abridgment, providing for corrections, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, providing for penalties, and directing the city clerk to record a copy of this ordinance.
Thank you. City Council, please enter a motion and a second to approve the ordinance 2023-1577. See a motion and a second up. Open for discussion. Seeing none? All right, let's open it up for a vote. Passes 7-0. Good job, Chris.
Thank
you. The last public hearing item to consider is the rezoning of 47.09 acres from C2 General Commercial and Agriculture to I1 Light Industrial with the PAD overlay. Open public hearing.
I'm back up, and I'm the only thing standing between y'all and dinner and red zone highlights, so I'm going to try to be brief but thorough.
Okay.
Very similar, 47.35 acres. This time we've moved up the street a little bit to Citrus and McDowell. Property's currently zoned C2 and AG Agriculture. It's this property right here, southeast corner, Citrus and McDowell in the red box. Zooming in a little closer, you could see that it is just south of our most coveted gated community, just north of Interstate 10, just west of the Loop 303, and just east of Vertua Citrus, which is a business park type development. Zoning history. We annexed in 1982 as a part of 1,700 acre development, 1,700 acre annexation, that was agriculture. In 1999, it was rezoned 60 acres of it for a C2 commercial development for the Goodyear swap meet, if you remember those times and the corny little commercials that they used to have for that. no offense, but Goodyear Marketplace. And then there's a remnant 2.88 acres of AG still within the property. So this site, the applicant is rezoning to light industrial I-1 for very similar reasons, to create a business park-like environment. However, this PAD overlay also allows some additional uses. To allow to provide certainty on what can be there, the added use would include electrical vehicle charging facilities for trucks and or automobiles, the allowance for a convenient use gas station with a car wash, and then they will have those additional design requirements that some of them I mentioned on the other slide or the previous presentation, but some of those would be the dock door provisions, the westernmost buildings having pedestrian connections to Citrus, the landscape buffers, and the colors and themes that were talked about in that previous case. The applicant is also requesting that if you opt to approve this, there be some modifications to the STIP. So that would be, they would hope that you would approve alternate B. That really just clarifies, this property is at the end of our water territory lines, and they are going to seek to get their water service from the adjacent water provider. And there's some timing related to when site plan would be approved and when that certificate of necessity would be approved. So there's just some technical revisions to the ordinance that would be requested that you approve. To date, staff has received no resident opposition to this zoning case. Staff would recommend, or the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval. Again, we'd ask that you consider alternate B, which will clarify the water situation. And we also understand that the applicant would like a revision to one of the provisions in the ordinance. So it would read 1C1. That would read the electric vehicle charging facilities that is to be constructed on all or part of the subject property shall have at the time of temporary certificate of occupancy a completed security and screening fence constructed in accordance with city requirements and shall be monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The applicant is here. They would like to speak on the matter, and I'm happy to answer any zoning-related questions you might have.
Come on up, Wendy.
Once again, for your records, Wendy Riddell with the law firm Barry Riddell, 6750 East Camelback. Again, I am also the only thing standing between you and dinner. Happy to answer questions, happy to give a full presentation. I will point out this is electric vehicle charging. I think exactly what this council was looking for as part of the last application. It will be one of the first in the country coming here. I think it's really a feather in the cap of Goodyear, and we're very excited about it.
Thank you. Now, with that, hold on, just see if there's any other questions there, all right? We're going to close the public hearing. Now, I'll make sure I get this right, City Clerk. You're going to read this resolution 2023-2331, 2331 by title only. That includes what Christian just read to me, the electric vehicle charging. Is that in this one?
No. It added that it will be added. So it should be the alternative B stipulation,
So-
and then with the additional step proposed tonight.
Okay, so you're going to read the adopt, right?
Mayor, yes, the way that we had this drafted is that I will read the resolution and will read stipulation A and stipulation B. And when the council makes their motion, they would need to specify whether it's included in option A or stipulation B.
Can I just suggest, since
Or
you're
both.
making the motion, that you just include stipulation B as requested?
There you
Yeah,
go.
I would agree. It feels
That
like
work?
there's consensus for B, just to have the clerk read B.
With the additional step proposed.
With the additional
Yeah.
stipulation.
With the additional? Do you have a copy of this?
B plus that would equal what the applicant is hoping to achieve. That's B.
It's on here. She'll read it.
So real quick, and I apologize for the confusion here. If alternate B is selected, that would allow modifications in process with the water territory. And the applicant would request that with addition to the stipulation that I read, which would clarify that 24-hour security would be located at the electric vehicle chase station. So if council opts to do that, you would recommend approval of B with the stipulation that I just read.
All right,
And that's what I'm moving, when you get done reading it.
okay? Go ahead.
Adopt Resolution 2023-2331 declaring as public records those certain documents referred to and incorporated by reference in ordinance number 2023-1578 filed with the city clerk related to rezoning case for Southeast Corner Citrus and McDowell. Stipulation B, Stipulation 14 is amended to read, owner shall construct at owner's sole cost and expense all on-site and off-site infrastructure improvements determined by the city as being necessary to provide wastewater service to the property, including the improvements identified in the sewer report as required by EDSPM and the city during review of the site plan and/or construction plans.
Now,
And the electric vehicle charging facility that is to be constructed on all or part of the subject property shall have, at the time of temporary certificate of occupancy, a completed security and screening fence constructed in accordance with city requirements and shall be monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
all right, now with that said, I need a motion, right, and a second, and I've got that, okay? So open for discussion? We good? All right, first up, nope. You lost me here. I thought the change,
Time for them to speak.
Yeah, that's what I mean, it's time for the chief, we got all this in here, so. All right, it's open for speaking, Councilmember Campbell's up first.
Okay, so I don't want to vote to make anyone put an electric charging station in, period. But why is it coming forward? Is this going to be just an electric charging, whatever they're going to build? I mean, I don't understand. I looked at all of your stuff, but it just makes no sense.
This would not require an electric charging station. What it does is it allows that to be a permitted use on the property. So the property would be zoned I-1 with the guidelines, those additional enhancements about dock doors and colors and things like that. It would also add the allowed use of electric charging, gas station.
If they
and
wanted
car
to. We're not mandating they do.
No, we are not. It's just a permitted use. We're basically taking the I-1 list and adding those two uses to it, so that when the developer goes to develop it, they can pick from all the uses I listed in the previous case and those two uses.
Okay, I just don't want to vote to say you have to put in an electric charging system,
Great questions. Yep.
truthfully. Thank you.
Councilmember Hampton?
Yeah, I'm okay with that use being there. But I just want to I'm curious. We've never had like something like this ever in the state, so I'm just curious what that looks like. What's going to feel like electric charging, dedicated charging station versus a gas station. I mean, the same kind of questions I had with the other use with the gas station. I mean, is it a truck stop? Is there showers or things like that? Is it what's the limits? I don't know what the limits are, or what, because they'll be there for a while charging, I would imagine. So I'm just curious. They won't be idling necessarily, but they'll be.
Right, because they're electric.
Exactly.
But,
So,
Mayor, Councilmember Hampton, so this is not a truck stop. This is really innovative for the country. It is for fleet vehicles. They will actually be making a reservation, and they'll have an app on their phone, and they will have a set time at this facility. So they will be coming here, they will be taking their app, they will be showing that to the secured access to get into the facility. They will have their set reservation time to bring their truck. The truck will be charged at that period of time, and then they will leave. There is a small area that they will have a vending machine, lounge, restroom, but there's no showers, there's no big restaurants, or there's nothing that would give you the sort of indicia of a truck stop. It's really very different. One of the things, the reason that stipulation was crafted today and we're proposing to add it is just to give everyone that assurance that it is not a typical truck stop.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of a truck stop that has that type of reservation system or security, or monitoring like we are.
yeah, and like for example, like I've never been to one of these before, and I don't think anybody else has. So it sounds the 24/7. It's a gated entrance. The public's not going to walk in and use it. It's dedicated use for just that particular user. So okay, and then while they're there, it's not going to be a high turnaround like a gas station, like food and vending and things like that. We're going to get, I don't know, not a bucket or type of uses where there's a lot of food or something going on over there.
I'm working on that.
So a lot of food uses going on or something. So okay, I'm just curious what that felt like. So okay, thank you.
Of course.
Councilmember Stipp.
Cool project. Thanks for bringing it to us. Thanks for thinking of City of Goodyear. That's a very weird area for us with our gated community to the north and the freeway to the south, but I think this is a really good accent to kind of moving us forward, especially being this close yet this far away. It's the appropriate charging point coming out of California. So thank you.
Anything else? All right then, let's open the voting. Passes 7-0. Thank you. Thank you. Does the council have any comments, commendations, or reports on current events?
Mayor,
Yeah, one more. That was the resolution. We need to do the ordinance.
Okay. Hold on. Adopt resolution, that's where I'm at? That's what happens when I've been in here more than 2 hours. My brain starts to freeze. Adopt ordinance number 2023-1578, conditional rezoning approximately 47.09 acres of property located at the southeast corner of Citrus Road and McDowell Road from C2, general commercial and agriculture, to the planned area development, PAD zoning district, with an underlying zoning district of I1, light industrial, with planned area development of PAD overlay, amending the zoning map of the city of Goodyear, providing for non-abridgment, providing for corrections, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, providing for penalties, and directing the city clerk to record a copy of the ordinance. I get a motion and a second. I have a motion and a second. Council discussion. See none. Now open to vote. Seven zero. We're good now, right? All right. Yeah, I know. Does city council have any, have a good one there? Does city council have any comments, commendations, or reports on current events or requests for future? Yes, Councilmember Stipp.
I got two. First is, you mentioned tonight a work session on this flight path discussion, et cetera, which, as things go, will probably be after the first of the year. I hope not, but it's a pretty complicated topic. Is it possible for us to gradually get the information as it becomes available to the staff so that we can read up on this as we're going, so we don't get a flood of info that night? I think that would be super helpful.
Yes, sir. And it's my goal to do that and piggyback on another request by the council on just the philosophy of operating facilities south of Cantamia, water and wastewater facilities, which is a recent discussion, so we'll piggyback.
Okay. Item 2 is have a session coming up where we're going to hear from ASU on development.
Yes, sir.
I think that would have been extremely informative for tonight's discussion. But I also believe now, based on tonight's discussion, tonight's discussion,
Okay.
if we had probably had some information from ASU about what's going on regionally, what's going on in the marketplace, that might have, it didn't help
No.
in favor of the project, but it may have given us more information to give into the public. But what was telling from that is we probably need to invite P&Z to that meeting.
Okay.
At least let them know this is going to be discussed, this is what's happening, because perhaps if they knew the same level of information we knew, they may have come to a different conclusion that night. And then finally, recognition, et cetera. Our digital communications department was awarded 3
Yes.
3 digital communications awards that we found out about in the manager's report, but I think we kind of owe them a public shout out. They are our voice and get that information out into the public. Tammy's not here tonight, but she's sitting right in that empty seat over there.
You just don't see her, Bill. She's there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it must be me. Anyway, I just want to give a shout out to the digital communications folks for a job well done, and that's all I got.
Appreciate that.
Councilmember Hampton.
I'm sure the city manager's gonna say this already, but do you know how many people were at the Mavericks event? I was there. It was great. The drone presentation was really, really impressive. So might be something add this one of our events in the future. But it was really it was neat. It was very well. Looked like it was very well attended. So. But it was I was there, so I was curious if you had that information. If not yet, we'll get another meeting. But thank you.
Councilmember Campbell, did you have something?
Oh, I just wanted to add that I had already asked the city manager to do a work session and to look into this air traffic problem that we're having with the airplanes coming over our homes, because we've had Lufthansa and the German Air Force flying out of that airport for years and never had an issue. Never had an issue. United comes in and they're turning our upside down, and so there's miscommunication somewhere, and we need to nip it in the bud, because we can't let them do it. I don't think we should let them do it. If we've got folks that are actually airline pilots that know what they're talking about, and if an airplane flew 350 feet over my house, I'd be calling chief to come out here, because that's scary.
Yeah.
Chief. I called him before, but no, so I appreciate it. And Justin said he's got meetings already set up, so we're on it, Bill. Thank you so much. But it is something we absolutely have to address. Absolutely.
Yeah, the tough part, and that's where it's going to come in handy in detail, is we don't control the air above us. You know, it's the FAA, so that's why it's important to bring in the players so we understand what we can do and then how we can mitigate this issue. But the ultimate decision, unfortunately, it's not ours. But we can actually ask them to try to do something with their patterns that they're flying. So that's for the work session, and I agree with Councilmember Stipp that maybe get some of that information ahead of time so we can ask some intelligent questions when they come in and do that.
Mayor.
Okay, we good?
I do
All right,
have.
then, what do you got?
I do have a very brief update on the Mavericks Roundup event. 13,000 in attendance. That's a 13% decrease from last year. 60 food trucks, 2 bands, Superhero and Hillbilly Deluxe, and a DJ. The West Valley Mavericks were pleased with the event, and staff will debrief with the group in the next few weeks.
Anything else?
And that's it.
Well, the next meeting will be October 8th. Well, that seems to be a ways away. No further business. This meeting's adjourned.